It's been frustrating because they've gone totally silent. I've used your map, the map in the portal, and it's shown that it
Corey, can you hear me?
We've got spots here.
Those two, so you guys can. Yeah.
Carries around with him. Yeah, carries around all the time. He takes it home.
For both of them.
I
thought we would just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question, actually.
Yeah,
I have a guest Wi-Fi,
So
and I don't believe the guest.
On mine. So.
I don't care about it.
You can also use my computer. So there's a guest with no password.
Emily announced this morning that she's recently.
Okay.
So it hasn't been.
Emily.
Emily. Claire.
Oh, yes, is it like this USB-C?
Okay.
They all have role.
And the gal that replaced Joel.
I didn't know my computer.
2 weeks ago, or just before Christmas break.
Oh, you have your.
Very good.
It's told stuff.
Yeah,
And
I
staff
think
couldn't tell
if you
her.
want to,
No.
I'm not presenting at all, so you can just kind of have my computer.
And they.
Let me-
I was at the meeting.
I can-
And then someone told
So
me.
that would.
Are you ready to start?
You running this program?
Whoever wants to, it's you or me.
I think it's you.
I'll hand it over to you then. Interim Chair Casino shall be presiding. No, I nominate.
I think you have to declare the chair vacant,
Yes,
then you need to nominate the temporary chair.
we
First,
declare.
you gotta open the meeting.
No. Oh, yeah, you gotta open the meeting.
Yeah, we gotta confirm video is working and audio is working. Is the meeting begun? All right, call to order. So we declare that we are without a chair and without a vice chair. The chair has resigned and a new appointment has been made. Our vice chair's term ended on December 31st. As did Commissioner Bartlett's, but we're likely going to see reappointments happening in the next couple of weeks. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I think we are proposing that we all appoint an interim chair. We are normally, according to our rules of procedure, supposed to have a reorganization meeting in the first meeting in January of a new year. And I would move that we suspend the rules and postpone that for at least one meeting until we have a fuller body, more appointments. So any discussion of a motion? Well, first off, is there a second to the motion? The motion's been seconded. Any discussion of that motion? People feel okay with that? Any concerns?
That sounds like a prudent course.
Okay, and online, we'll make introductions in a minute, but thank you, Commissioner Kaiser, and Commissioner Fishburne's also with us, and Commissioner Flores, newly appointed. let's take a quick vote on that. We just, yay or nay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. So, I move that, Commissioner Casino be our interim chair. If he's willing.
I second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I think that we should first open this up to volunteers, see if somebody wants to do this. Somebody might enjoy the experience.
Just for the second.
But I know these people and I'm pretty sure that's a nay.
I did
Scott?
it last time.
You did it last time?
Yep.
All right, then I guess I'll do it.
Cool.
We believe in you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
All right, well, welcome to the January 7th, 2026 Thurston County Planning Commission. The Thurston County Planning Commission is a resident advisory committee of the Board of County Commissioners on land use planning matters such as the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance amendments. Planning Commission actions are in the form of recommendations for the county commissioners, the final decision makers. All Planning Commission meetings are open to the public. Community members are welcome to observe all Planning Commission briefings and work sessions. Public comment is welcome during the public communication section of each meeting. And with that, we're going to do a sound check and introductions, and we'll start here in the boardroom with Commissioner Halverson.
Barry Halverson, Yelm, District 2.
Kevin Pessinger, District 5.
Yvonne Miller, District 1.
Scott Nelson, District 4.
And online we have Commissioner Kaiser. Can you hear us?
Yes, indeed. I'm Sandy Kaiser. I live in and represent beautiful District 3.
Commissioner Fishburne
Bill Fishburne, I live in and serve District 4.
and Commissioner Flores.
Hi everyone, hopefully you all can see me. Yep, my name is Lola Flores and I represent District 3. I do not live in District 3 though.
All right, and my name is Eric Casino, and I live in the unincorporated or in the urban growth area of Lacey, and I serve in District 2. With that, as everybody's had an opportunity to look at the agenda, I'd entertain a motion on it.
Move to approve the agenda for January 7th, 2026.
Sorry, quickly on the introduction. We have a lot of staff that are not usually at this meeting. Do we want to introduce any of them?
Do we want to introduce staff now or before of each work session?
We can do a work session. That probably will be fine, but thank you.
Looking for a second on the agenda. All in favor of accepting tonight's agenda, say aye.
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 Voice vote. carries. We have an agenda. With that, we'll move on to the public communication portion of the meeting. We're saving minutes for another time, I believe. I did see
When we
minutes
can
in our
vote on.
packets, but yeah.
Chair Casino? Chair Casino, may I?
Yes.
I'd just like to extend a cordial welcome to new Commissioner Lola Flores, who I know from her great work in our community, especially around the areas of conservation. And I'm really excited to have her join us on the commission.
I second that.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us, Commissioner Flores. All right, with that, we'll move on to the public communication portion of our meeting. Those wishing to participate via Zoom, please choose the raise your hand option, and we will elevate you to a panelist and call you by name. If there's anybody else here in the boardroom that would like to provide testimony to the Planning Commission, please let us know. But we're going to start out first with Christy White.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Christy White and I live in the Delphi Valley. My comments and ask reference the update of the geologically hazardous areas section of the Critical Areas Ordinance. I ask that the updated CAO adopt performance-based protections to ensure upslope activities in geologically hazardous areas do not harm downslope or downstream homes, infrastructure, watersheds, and fish habitat. I can personally vouch for the impact of such harmful activities. A landslide from a state logging operation brought down debris and water that nearly destroyed our neighbor's bridge. Kind neighbors used an excavator at 2 o'clock in the morning to save their only access after Stony Creek was gouged up to 5 feet. In addition, aquatic species were harmed for years. Another currently planned logging operation could repeat this. I'm not asking the county to preempt state authority. I ask for standards that meet the county's expectations for safety and environmental protections. I ask the commission to request that the following be included in the updated CAO. 1, require county monitoring of all logging and major land disturbing activities, public or private, affecting critical areas or public safety. 2, mandate that the county review geologic hazard analysis for all landowners, addressing direct, indirect, downslope, and downstream impacts. 3, establish a CAO standard ensuring no net increase in landslide or erosion risk. 4, require site-specific geotechnical analysis where slope failure could affect residences, public infrastructure, or fish-bearing waters. Enforce protections for fish-bearing waters and aquatic species, preventing sediment increases or habitat degradation from upslope activities. 6, ensure county road use permits proceed for land disturbing activities only after all required documentation has been submitted and verified by the county to ensure public safety. 7, require the county as a formal commenting agency submit local hazard maps and public safety reviews to all permitting bodies for potential hazardous land disturbing activities. These requests do not block lawful forestry or land management, but ensure projects use science and common sense to prevent harm. Thank you.
Anybody else in that? Please do.
Hi, commissioners. My name is Betsy Norton. I live in Olympia. I would just like to, I don't have quite as detailed suggestions here, but one of the things that I've just observed is that there seem to be a lot of locally comprehensive critical areas, particularly landslides and water issues, critical area ordinances that are, your ordinances are very siloed. So you'll have a CARA here, you'll have a wetland here, you'll have an endangered habitat here. But there is nothing that sort of assesses the locational significance of those things as being in close proximity to each other. And what we'd like to see is some sort of particularly hydrologic hazards evaluated in terms of, for instance, their proximity to endangered species or endangered species habitat, so that that's sort of an additional level of criteria that you'd apply to it and make them more important to protect than just one that's isolated by itself. I'm thinking in particular right now of the Black Lake Quarry site, where you have high groundwater, you have a CARA, you have a salmon stream, and you have endangered species habitat and wetlands. And each of those separately on a parcel map has its own critical areas ordinance, but I don't see anything that ties them together and says this particular confluence of these things is more important than just the sum of the parts. So that's just a suggestion if you can kind of work that into your ordinances. And I would just also like to, when you're thinking about groundwater, think about groundwater and surface water levels together so that those groundwater concerns that are near surface waters that are important for habitat or important for maintaining in-stream levels are rated at a higher level of criticality than those that are farther away. Because if their seeps are what's keeping the surface waters flowing at the right level, then it's more important to keep those in place. So that's about, oh, and I just wanted to let you know You should be able to dynamically change your maps based on what's happening, both on development, but also the kind of wacky, weird things that people do. I know near my house, there were some houseless people in the Percival Chasm who actually carved out caves for themselves, which increased the landslide hazard there. So just weird things like that sometimes happen. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Norton. Is there anybody else in the boardroom? Please come up and let us know who you are and what part of the county you're from.
My name is Bruce Anderson, District 3. I'm a neighbor to Capitol Forest. So I'm the person that Christie mentioned got their driveway pretty much wasted from the landslides that occurred in 2007 and 2009. So my ask is that the geology side of DNR work much more closely with the forestry side. It seems like I've talked to a lot of folks lately, and that's just the impression I get. So having, things like more emphasis like the presentation tonight, which I'm very interested in. I've gone to the portal map that's attempting to map those things, and I see that it's early. There's a lot of missing, landslides like the two that occurred above me. So, my request is that, again, they work much closer and not just, this is the forestry plots, these are the people that earn the income off these, and they have to be logged. There's people impacted downstream from these forest operations, and they just need to assess better what the impact downstream is. I saw Stony Creek completely decimated in the headwaters of it by those two landslides, and see it now just recovering. So that's my request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to our online guests, and we'll start with Kyle Willoughby. Kyle, you'll have to unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes. Kyle, are you there? All right, we'll come back to him in a minute to see if he's there, but we'll move on to Loretta Sepinen and see if her equipment's working. Go ahead. We hear you.
Okay, very good. I'll try to get my screen to show. Okay, that's not going to work. So, okay. I am Loretta Sepinen, live in Olympia, Washington. And tonight I want to talk about your first agenda item is the docketing process, and particularly one topic on there that I want you to promote more. I want you to raise it up on the list of things, and it's the topic that's called, unfortunate title of Working Lands Conservation Programs, Policies, and Code Update. The reason that I want this promoted is that part of working lands is agriculture lands, and our community really wants us to pay more attention to the fact that we're losing agricultural lands, continuing to lose it at a pretty good clip, and that everything we've done about it so far is not really stopping that, so we need more work. When we put the comprehensive plan together this year, we added a new policy, and it was to consider the possibility of a new ag zone. I'd like you to add that to that particular item, that working lands conservation task, add that we want to include that consideration of a new ag zone in there. I'd also ask you to rename this project. What does working lands mean? I think it's very confusing. You don't even know what that means. Obviously, it is meant to mean the habitat aspect of lands. That's part of work. It probably means timber, and it probably means agriculture. I think the community interest really centers on agriculture. So I ask you to consider renaming it to something meaningful that the community can get behind and say, yes, this is something that we want to do. And then the last thing I want to ask is that you raise the level of importance. It's listed now as medium. I'd like you to move that up the list and recommend to the commission, to the Board of County Commissioners, that it be a high priority. We really need to put energy into changing what we're doing in our policies and programs, on our codes, to make sure that we stop the loss of agricultural lands. Thank you for your work, and thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you very much. We're going to move back to Mr. Willoughby if you are, looks like you're unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Does that work better?
You're a little muffled,
Wonderful.
but we can hear you.
Well, I came tonight just to share some of my experience. I'm fighting a cold, so hopefully it will come through enough. My name's Kyle. My wife, Marianne, and I moved to Thurston County from Seattle in 2022. We wanted to be able to raise our kids and our family in a wild place full of nature away from the big city. I'm originally from Kelso, Washington. I spent as much time as I could in the outdoors. Marianne got her start and her love of nature first in the mountains of Mexico and later in the wilds of Minnesota before she came to Seattle with me. And I just emphasize the values and the mindset that we came into this process with. We're now moving into our 5th year of trying to build a home for our family in unincorporated Thurston County. In 2022, we borrowed money from family and sunk all of our savings into purchasing our dream property, a 40-acre parcel just south of the Olympia Airport. But little did we know what a nightmare the whole process would later become. Our daughter, who was 4 years old at the time, is now going to be 9 in a couple months. And as of today, we still have a long road of administrative appeals, reasonable use exceptions ahead of us before we can even dream about breaking ground. We've made essentially no progress that anyone can see, but we have spent tens of thousands of dollars on reports, engineering, experts, surveys, not to mention the county fees, which at this point already exceed, I think, about $12,000. I tried to remain optimistic, but it's absolutely disheartening how unnecessarily difficult, unfair, and expensive the whole planning process is. And most of this process centers around the critical areas ordinance. I understand, as someone who has been a nature lover my whole life, how important it is. And this is why we wanted to move here in the first place, was to be in nature, to be good stewards, and to love nature. But what I've seen is that the critical ordinance has reached a point of regulatory paralysis. There are so many layers that once you put them on top of each other, there's nothing left. Our 40 acres, once you apply everything, has tiny areas where you can do anything. And the advice we get from the county at every turn is just spend more money, go through more appeals, go through reasonable use exception, and it comes to be that everything goes through reasonable use. I have never personally experienced anything so unfair or one-sided in my life, and in my 47 years on this earth. And I find this to be the height of inequity. If I had limitless funds and deep pockets like these big developers, sure, I could afford to pay all that, but I don't. And so I have to scrape by with what little I can. And I wanted to just come before you and ask that we make some changes. I know I'm out of time, so I'll just say this, that I think, number one, reasonable use of your own property should never require an exception.
Thank you very much, Mr. Willoughby. I would like to note that Commissioner Bartlett has been able to join us, and if you'd like to do a sound check, you're welcome to do so now.
Thank you. You guys hear me?
A little bit. You're kind of muted.
Oh, here.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anybody else in the room that'd like to provide comments today? All right, seeing no more, we're gonna move on to continued business. Item number 3, which is work session number 7, the critical areas ordinance update with Associate Planner Claire Swearingen.
Hey, so a quick introduction for tonight. If any of you were around for our awesome presentation from Mark, prior to the meeting, we touched a little bit on some really exciting new mapping resources from the Washington DNR. And some wonderful staff from DNR are here to help share about some of that information for us, how the tool works, what it can do. And so I'll pass it off to Mitch. Is there anything you want to open up with?
Sure, yeah. I guess I'd just like to thank everyone for having us here to share the work that we did, and looking forward to questions and seeing where this goes. This is Trisha Sears. She's our geologic planning liaison at the Washington Geological Survey. So she's hopefully between the two of us, we should be able to.
Could you tell us who you are? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm Mitch Allen. I'm in the Landside Hazard Program at the Geology Division of the Department of Natural Resources, and our official name is Washington Geological Survey. And I was the project lead for the landside inventory mapping for Thurston County.
Great, thank you.
All right, I can jump into my presentation now.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Hit the right buttons here. All right. Again, my name's Mitch Allen with the Washington Geological Survey, and I'm here to share the work that we did on our inventory project, and also kind of share how the public can interact with the mapping that we did on our public-facing landside geology portal. So I apologize for the wall of text here, but this is the RCW that outlines the work that our program does, as well as many other programs at the survey. But in short, we are tasked with using the best available science to identify and map landslide hazards. We're supposed to update those practices as better science becomes available. We're also tasked with coordinating with state and local governments to incorporate information and local knowledge that you all have, as well as providing technical assistance on use and interpretation of the work that we do. So it's nice to be here today and do that last bit of the work that we do. So what does our landside inventory mapping contain, and what goes into it? So we have a team of 5 landside geologists at the moment, and we have a protocol for mapping landslides from a LiDAR. So we use high resolution LiDAR to pan around the landscape, and we identify areas where we think we see landslides based on our geological understanding of the landscape. We map areas where we think those hazards have happened in the past. Oftentimes those hazards are more likely to occur where they've occurred in the past. So identifying things that have happened in the past is a good place to start for thinking about where they might occur in the future. Our landside inventories are intended to be a screening tool to identify areas where someone with a trained eye saw something that someone might want to take a closer look at. And so they're meant to be a screening tool for areas where site-specific investigations would be worth considering. And we map a few different types of landforms in our inventory, primarily landslides. So we draw, I don't know if you can see my cursor there. No. In the upper right, we map landslides. We draw polygon, what we call it, that red line that outlines the material that moved. We have a little a scarp flank polygon is what it'll look like on our maps. That's the portion of the landscape that didn't move but broke. So the intact hillside that broke. And then we also map fans or alluvial fans, might be another name you know them by. They're areas where repeat flooding or debris flows that have come out of confined stream channels have over time built fan-shaped deposits in the broader valleys downstream. We also map rockfall hazards. So again, the polygon outlines the accumulation of rock that has fallen from the steep rock cliffs above. So each landform outlines a different type of hazard, but landslides being the primary thing.
Our Commissioner Emeritus Baumgartner had pointed out at our last meeting, I think, something about potential for debris flows after areas experienced fires. And I think then just in the last 2 weeks, we saw a big one in Yakima, exactly where he said it might be. Is that something you would put on here? Would you categorize it as rockfall or something different?
So we have a post-fire debris flow team now. That team began about 1.5 years ago, but we've been doing post-fire debris flow work in our group for many years before that. And so we would, what we do in that work is we map the fans because that's where the debris flows end up. And so we do rapid assessments following fires where we map fans, and then we have some modeling that interprets probability of those events happening in different hydrologic basins.
Thank you.
Okay, so our group is responsible for managing the statewide inventory of landslides. And so the way that we do that is when our program began in 2016, they took all of the existing landslide mapping from lots of different sources, from geologic mapping, from watershed analyses, which is kind of a forest practices realm type of project that was done for many years. And anything we could find that was mapping landslides, and we put it in one bucket. We call that bucket other compiled landslide mapping. That is what it's called on our public facing portal. And so now that we have a standardized protocol for mapping landslides in detail from high resolution LiDAR, we go around the state, typically county size study areas at a time. We map the landslides in there. We use that study area as a cookie cutter to supersede or archive the compiled landslides and replace them with a comprehensive inventory from our detailed mapping. And so the map on the bottom left of the screen there shows areas that we've mapped. As our programs evolved over time, different counties have had different levels of mapping. Some are landslides only, some are landslides and fans, some are everything. And so it kind of varies depending on where you are.
If there is land that's, let's just use an example, say along the Puget Sound shoreline, and you have a landslide into the water, is that considered a landslide? Is there a height requirement? Is it considered shoreline erosion, something else?
Yeah, that's a question that comes up a lot in our group when we're mapping in shorelines. Particular at Thurston County, we spent a lot of time digging into the weeds of where that line's drawn. Our mapping protocol relies on being able to see a deposit. Can we see a mass of material that moved, and then that's where we can go from. So if there's a landslide that happens, it gets washed away by the waves in a season. We might be able to capture it. I didn't have this on this map, but we have recent landslide points, which is just a point where something failed from that we don't see in LiDAR. So it can come from imagery, it can come from field observations, it can come from local knowledge. So as long as we have enough information to know that something actually happened, we can document that with those points.
So would a feeder bluff definitionally be a landslide?
We don't map like background erosion of a bluff as a landslide. If we see discrete events when we're looking at imagery, we'll flag that. If we see a deposit on the beach that we can see in LiDAR or on the ground, we'll draw a polygon around that. But if it's just an unvegetated bluff that's steep, there's no sediment beneath it, and the imagery record, we don't see a discrete failure, that's not something that gets mapped in our inventories.
And just to add on to that, in the regulatory framework beyond just this mapping, if you, it's been a little while now, we had the holidays in between, but last time we talked a little about the different types of geologic hazard areas. Some of these things like the marine bluff areas or areas that are maybe part of a bank, whether that's coastal or a river, are also classified as erosion hazard areas, which are a little different than landslides. Sometimes they overlap with each other. Sometimes they're kind of separate things. Like erosion is a lot more common and maybe like a more normal and less like an event like a landslide or a hazardous event like a landslide. But it could still pose a threat to human property or have ecological function disrupted by development. And so it's a lot of those stream banks and bluffs, marine bluff areas are covered by the CAO, even if they're not considered or mapped as specifically a landslide hazard.
Rivers change course. Sorry, one last question. One of our public commenters said something about some homeless folks carving out something along a cliffside or in a ravine. Is that something you're familiar with? Is that something you track or not?
That's not, I haven't heard about that, or that's not something we track. We do have like a separate map that we do. We call it the recently reported landslides map, and we're continuously throughout the year looking for reports on the internet and the news media or washed-outs pages. Anywhere we see news of a landslide, we put a little point and document it. Last month was I think we mapped like 75 of them last month or something like that. So we keep track of failures we hear about, but might not know as much about.
I think it might also be worth noting like how much you can see on a LiDAR map, and specifically it sounds like we're going to be getting more like finer scale LiDAR mapping in the future. Like you probably be able to see where somebody dug something out. So if we needed to look at it, we probably could during a process, whether or not it shows up on.
But everything hits your map, no matter what the cause is. If it's man-made or if it's a natural phenomenon or whatever, if you hear about it, you put it on your inventory.
On that reported map, yeah. Sometimes it's as vague as like debris and rocks on roadway on milepost 93 or something like that. Okay, so why did we come to Thurston County? Primarily, we had Kevin Hansen and Mark Bieber knocking on our door asking for us to come map for them, and we really appreciated that. We've had mixed interactions with counties over the years, and so we very much appreciated having that engagement before we even were thinking about Thurston County. So that's the first thing that got us here. Another reason is there was recently new LiDAR in 2021. It was really good LiDAR to map from. There were several wide-scale damaging landslide events in the county. One in 2007, one in 2009, like rain on snow events that triggered a lot of landslides around the county. There are also several historic big deep-seated landslides along the coastal bluffs. There's the Kailayan Beach, the Sunset Beach, and Sunrise Beach landslides that pose a big public safety threat, as well as several earthquakes that have triggered landslides across the county. And so there's a lot of stuff going on, and that made Thurston County a good place to spend our time. So how do we make our maps? We start by engaging with the people who work here and know the landscape. We go out with people from Department of Transportation, Thurston County. We tag up with our fellow geologists in the forestry realm who are out running around the woods on state lands, and we learn what they see, what they understand about the landslides in the area. And then we spend time remotely mapping from LiDAR, looking at imagery. We go out in the field every month or two to calibrate our eyes, our remote eyes, with what's actually happening on the ground. And everything that we map gets reviewed at least once by a licensed engineering geologist. And then we also had several external partners review our mapping, as well as internal WGS staff. So there's lots of review process and interaction. We were able to get a lot of information about slope stability assessments from around the county that informed some of the work that we did. That was something fun that we haven't been able to work with in the past. And so a lot went into, there's a good feedback loop throughout the whole process. So this is kind of a map of what we did. It might be hard to see at this scale, but all those little tan polygons are just landslides. I didn't put fans or rockfall or points on here, but this kind of highlights where we map landslides. A lot of the landslides are concentrated in the uplands, where the landscape hasn't been scoured by the glacial ice. And so those areas have been eroding for a lot longer, as they weren't wiped clean during the last ice age about 15,000 years ago. And then along the coastal bluffs and river valleys is where they're concentrated. They're probably hard to see at this scale. That's kind of what you can see out here.
Which river experiences the most erosion?
I'm not sure. It kind of varies depending on like how controlled the river is and its river valley. Does it have room to move around? Are the river valleys composed of bedrock or glacial sediments? It kind of varies. But thinking back on it, nothing's jumping out at me at the moment.
I know in recent flooding, we had pieces of the banks of the Nisqually falling off because of the river was moving so full and so fast. Luckily not where anybody's homes were, which is a good thing.
Critical areas ordinances work or something?
And they might have. I think it was also on maybe conservation district land. Don't hold me to it.
So this is a really busy slide and I apologize for that. But I'm going to touch on some of the highlights here. Our webpage, which is on the next slide, has a lot of information to educate people about landslides, help them find our maps. We have a lot of handouts. We have a homeowner's guide to landslides, which is geared towards people who live around landslide houses. You don't have to own your home, but if your the place you live is near a landslide, it has really good graphics and things to be aware of and watch for to keep yourself safe, as well as thoughts towards emergency preparedness if you do find yourself in a hazardous situation. And so those are things that we can help provide for you all or the public as you move through this. We have our geologic information portal. That's where anyone can go see our maps. We have Trisha, our geologic planning liaison, that helps kind of bridge the gap between all of our geology jargon and what you all need to know to make good decisions. And so we are happy to do meetings like this or in other formats. So we're very open to helping in any way that we can.
Are you officed out of Olympia or?
I am, yeah. And then, yeah, here's a list of resources. I'll just kind of leave that up there. But we have our landslide webpage, our portal. We have our LiDAR specific portal where you can look at the LiDAR. There's our recently reported landslides map you can go to, a link, and then a link to Trisha's webpage there with the geologic planning. You can find planning specific information. I don't know how much time I have left, but I was planning on more than willing to go into our portal and take a look at how that feels to navigate there if you all are interested in that.
You got time on the agenda.
I'm interested, but I have a question.
Yeah.
So I think we think here in Thurston County, we're a little less at risk overall than some places in the state. Also as a, example of a risk, we don't think we have nearly something of that level here. But from your, recent work here and your willingness to kind of be excited about working with Thurston County and comparing it to other stuff you know about the state, what would you say our top 3 risks are in Thurston County?
In terms of like where landslides are concentrated or like what?
Anything like if Mount St. Helens erupted, it would certainly impact Orting really badly, but it might also affect Thurston County to a small degree, or whatever you think the greatest risks we face in Thurston County are.
Well, if you think about risk as like the intersection of like the hazard, its frequency, and and the people.
Potential damage, yeah.
Potential damage. Landslides are usually have the most frequent hazard that people experience. It's one people remember. Lots of people have know someone or have interacted with a landslide before. Earthquakes and volcanoes happen less frequently, but they're more damaging. But there have been several earthquakes in Washington that have triggered a bunch of landslides in Thurston County. And so I think in terms of landslides, there's the concentration of coastal bluffs where people want to live. And then there's the foothills where people want to move to. And so those are things, that's where people interact with those hazards often. And then also places where there's like artificial fill or like downtown and stuff where a lot of the landscape is susceptible to liquefaction and earthquake, those kind of things.
That seems the highest risk to me. Because there's so much population there, right? And so much people and property.
Yep. Yeah, in terms of like ranking them, that's a really hard thing to do, but those are some thoughts that jump out at me.
Thank you.
Thinking about that.
Well, yeah, let's see some of your site then. Oh, Commissioner Bartlett.
Yeah, hi. I was a little curious about kind of, I guess, the temporal version of what Mr. Pester was asking. Like, do you guys have an idea of how things, like, if there's a change in the rate of the percent, like increasing need for I'm sorry. Given the fact that we are experiencing a lot more like variable weather, it seems like we're experiencing a lot more landslide risk. Are you taking that into account when you are figuring out what areas to prioritize and assessing? Like, how do you prioritize which areas to reassess more often?
I kind of had a hard time hearing what that question was.
It was about changes in weather patterns and how they relate to risk, or how we account for like climate change as it relates to geohazards. Is that what other people heard?
I think that probably captured the.
Okay, I see a thumbs up.
But that'll probably also fall partially between like the folks who are out mapping it and then folks like us who are making policy around that science and that mapping. So probably lives in that interface a little bit. But.
Yeah, so like when our mapping identifies areas where these events have happened in the past. It's not predictive, but with landslides in particular, once something's moved, it's probably likely that it's going to move again. It's going to find that equilibrium. It's going to keep failing until it's at a happy place and it doesn't want to go anywhere anymore. Yeah, like getting into prediction of hazards and impacts from climate change, that usually requires some sort of modeling. So like some of our mapping can be used to inform that modeling in terms of like seeing where landslides have happened in the past, using those locations, comparing them to the topographic and hydrologic factors in those areas might, that could be used to inform a susceptibility style map, which we don't have in this. We did.
Then Mark, you shared a little bit earlier. This was a similar question that we had during the prior Ask a Geologist. If you wanted to share a little bit about what the county's doing on the on looking at future rainfall and how that might intersect.
I'm Mark Beaver. I work with the CPID, and my group is the Water and Climate Planning team, and that's one of the primary things that we do is we look at the climate models. We're generating those right now, working with the University of Washington to do that. So we're looking at how past rainfall patterns, we're taking all that data, we're incorporating into the new models that we're creating through University of Washington in coordination with the data that we currently have to formulate those models going forward into the future. So that type of work is going to help in combination with what WGS has done. kind of give us an idea how much, what effect that rain might cause, additional rainfall may cause on landslides in the county. So that is some work that we are doing right now.
Then I think the final piece of that is really, what do we do with that information? So now that we have we have really good information on prior landslides, we have this new data on and models on what the climate looks like, then the question becomes, what does that mean for our critical areas ordinance? So that comes back to us.
Can this be uploaded to GeoData?
Good question. There's a question whether it would be on GeoData. That Department of Natural Resources does host this LiDAR data, correct, these maps.
Right. My question is that we've done a whole bunch of different overlays of different types of things on our GeoData. And I was just wondering if this is something that can be imported to the Thurston County GeoData website.
Go to the director.
Yeah, so we are working on a geodata update. Right now, all of our applications and materials with critical areas ordinance do point to this as being a resource. However, our critical areas ordinance doesn't really mesh up with this resource. And so once the critical areas ordinance does get updated, it will be integrated as the primary resource rather than as like a secondary screening resource.
Okay, then I would make a recommendation that on your GeoData website, you may make a link to this, to DNR.
I'll check to see if it's there. We are working on a phased implementation plan of updates, and so you can check to see if it's there. We've been doing the same thing with wetlands because actually our geodata is a source, but there are other sources that we use to supplement it. And all of those will hopefully be integrated once we get the new critical areas ordinance.
I just followed the link on my PowerPoint, but if you go to our webpage, you can Google Washington landslides or Washington Geologic Information Portal. That can get you there. Geologic hazards, landslides. Here's our webpage, interactive maps, and then you can click this link and that'll take you to our portal here. So this view is kind of the default view of our landslides. With any map, it takes some getting used to and familiarity. We have a help page where you can, there's lots of good help stuff to help you wrap your head around how to use this thing. There's kind of a lot going on. There's also a glossary, so if you don't understand what one of the words are that you're reading or want to learn more, there's a description of what you're looking at in there. So there's some good resources there. You can, let's see here. And so here's our little disclaimer pop up. Can zoom into Thurston County here. As you zoom in, mapping pops on. These are recent points in areas that we can't see in LiDAR, but we know landslides happen. And then when you zoom in more, everything's kind of turned on. You see our landslides, our fans, and our rockfall. Makes for a really busy map, so you can tinker with turning layers on and off. You can also search an address. So I think looked this up earlier. The address of the county courthouse. Here we are up here. Get rid of this. And then you can kind of see what's going on around your area of interest. You can click on
to the sediment.
Yeah.
And then to understand what you're looking at, you can hit legend. This kind of shows you what the different hazards you might be looking at. This is an alluvial fan. These yellow things are landslides. The outline of the landslide deposit and the different features has a different pattern, straight, long dash, short dash, based on our confidence ratings. So we have like a standardized way that we rate the confidence, our confidence and whether or not we think it's what we mapped it as. And so like how confident are we based on the way that it looks? How confident are we that it is a landslide? And so you can click on these things. You can see that confidence rating, it's moderate. You can see whether we look at it in the field. Yes, we looked at it in the field. And then where there's various other things that we measure and interpret for each landslide. Each landslides by default assumed to be prehistoric, so before humans were around, or at least before development, where whether or not humans were here far before 150 years, but before major development started happening. And then if we see evidence that it's historic within the last 150 years, if there's, you can see an imagery, there's an old forest skid road that's failed or something like that, those are things that we look for and we document in there. So you can learn a little bit more about the features that you're curious about. You can also say, like, what did they see? You can go down here and you can turn on LiDAR and actually, interact with it that way. This is like a surface model with the trees scrubbed off, so you're looking at the ground surface in there. So you can, and then there's different base layers with county boundaries and different things that you can turn on and off and inform yourself. Yeah, that's kind of, we can zoom around to other places if anyone's curious, but that's kind of what I had planned to share and demonstrate.
Will they show aquifers?
They show aquifers? No, that is not something that we are mapping at the moment, groundwater stuff.
But we will talk about aquifers next time. So those are coming up.
Any other questions for our WGS staff? How about, do you have any more for us on this one, Claire?
This was our CAO for today, so if there's any other questions about this for right now, otherwise I think we're done with CAO.
Is there anything you wanted to tell us, but you haven't told us yet? Or like, what do you sit around the water cooler talking about that we haven't heard in the news yet?
Oh man, that's a good question. Nothing I can think of. We're currently mapping up in Clallam County. There's a lot of big landslides up there.
I mean, Highway 2 falling in the river probably didn't surprise you that much.
There's a lot of water moving through the mountains.
Since you folks are local, when you were personally deciding where you were gonna live and you knew all this stuff, where did you decide?
That was the question.
I live right up on the flat hill up here.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming in. I'm sorry that I didn't see your earlier presentation this evening, but I'm sure it was probably a lot of good, but
Popular.
was it popular? All right. Does anybody else have any questions on this particular item? All right.
Before we move on real quick, so what we have been doing, I don't know how well informed everybody is, and maybe for the record, we've been doing some kind of pre-meeting presentations that are relevant to the subjects we're talking about. So today we did the Ask a Geologist with our one, Mr. Mark Bieber. And it was really interesting. We learned a lot about some of the other kind of hazards as well beyond landslides. The other good and bad things that geology does locally.
And we will continue those. They're happening at about 5:30 before some of our planning commission meetings, the ones in particular where we are bringing up new information. So I believe we're having Kevin Hansen back again for some more information on critical aquifer recharge areas next time. And then we'll also be talking to, in the future, out on the schedule, some of our folks who know things about interesting areas like floods and habitat and wetlands. So we have a a really wonderful amount of knowledge on the team. And so we're trying to bring that out and let folks share their specialties with us as we kind of all learn together about critical areas.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna move on to the new business portion of our agenda, which is work session number 1. Overview of upcoming 2026-2027 docket process and proposals, and believe that. All right.
I'm back.
And you're back.
It's so lovely to see you. One moment.
Take a minute to get sorted here.
And David Scott and Mark Stewart, some people have perfect names for their jobs.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Skip man every day to be the official timekeeper.
But
Yeah, this is. Weird not over there, but that's okay.
speaking of aquifers, have any of you heard about this one that they found in the high up in the Cascade Mountains in Oregon? It's huge, like one of the biggest aquifers I've ever found, and it's underground in the middle of the mountains.
That's awesome.
There's a lake in the middle of it.
Yeah.
All right.
Somebody's gonna wanna get their hands on that.
Disarming.
All right, we can go ahead and kick off. We've got Andrew and Anna here to talk about docket today. I think most of you probably know Mr. Bond and Ms. Rodriguez, but you guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves. I think maybe Lola doesn't know you too.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Bond. I'm the Community Development Manager over in CPED. I oversee the current planning, building, and the land use long range elements. And so I am here to assist from the land use perspective.
Anna Rodriguez, Associate Planner, here to talk not about comp plan. It's lovely to see everyone again. First, I apologize. I have been having the worst allergies all afternoon, so forgive all of this. So we're gonna be talking about the docket, the proposals that we're taking to the board, how we're kind of shaking things up a little bit compared to our previous docket cycles in order to, I mean, you all are involved. Last docket cycle, we didn't come to you. You learned about these things when we showed up with presentations. And so looking back on the past 2 years of work, thinking about how we can improve things. We were gonna have 2 work sessions, power outage, cut out the one in December. So we're here for this. And I also just wanna let you all know, this will look different in 2 years as well. We're trying to build upon this to make it a more stable and meaningful process as we move it through Planning Commission and through the board so that CPED has a really strong docket, 2 dockets as they work through our projects. There we go. As I kind of already said, I will walk through the docket process, what it is, and the timeline for this cycle. And then I will walk through all of the proposals, as including the preliminary docket proposals that are outstanding. Outstanding is not the right word. They're on the preliminary docket from the 2024-2025 docket cycle. Also, we are integrating if you look at the slides, prioritizing the projects. We're trying to frame the proposals that we have for the board in a way that they view it as a package and things that are high, medium, and low priority. So there's not any morality tied to these projects when we prioritize them. It's more how required are they? So high priority items, if it's mandated by the state that we have to do it outright, it's a high priority item, no matter how labor intensive or fun or exciting it is. Some of the planning commission favorite projects are considered high priority, like the CIP. Anything that is applicant initiated by members of the public is a low priority item. And then medium priority is a much bigger amorphous bucket, but some things, the majority of the medium priority things you'll be seeing are projects to support grant work. So CPED is really good at getting money. And when you get money, you have the opportunity to do different work. And so while it's not state required, it's still important to get that work done. Yes.
Are you expecting that when it comes through this body and we're kind of looking at how we want to prioritize things, that we would also consider your resourcing?
I will leave that up to you all and the discussions that we have throughout this
Were you
evening.
planning on?
I do want the planning commission priority to be in the information that I provide to the board, or that Ashley.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm saying is, would you present us with the resourcing issues or constraints that might be
That's why
involved in
Ashley's
each
here.
of these?
I can provide that lens.
Okay.
I mean, all of the things that we're gonna present, we are not resourced to do all of them.
Yeah.
Without consultant support and whatnot. And so that's really the reason behind the high, medium, low. It comes down to resources. Like, we have to do the high, we
Yeah.
have to reserve the staff resources for that. Medium is we'd love to have, like, some of these things, as you'll see, are really critical in terms of implementing the comp plan that just got adopted. But they'll need resources, and that's why we've been going after grants to make sure we can do that work. And then the low is, these are external applications, and to the extent that we can, maybe we could even get consultants to help us work on them, because we're not gonna have the staff to do them, so.
And the way that we've set this up, the planning commission is super early in our process, so we might not have super super detailed, how many staff hours and consultant hours something would take, but as Ashley mentioned, we can definitely.
We can give you a range.
Yeah, I mean, I would hate to see where if we had something that was prioritized low, but it was didn't take a whole lot of resources to get it done either, that we might consider bumping that up just because it would be low hanging fruit and.
I will say, every time that we have thought that, we were wrong.
But I would say, I would say your input is probably gonna be most valuable, like when it goes to the board in kind of that middle space.
Yeah.
So the required things, like maybe it might be worth kind of trying to put your thumb on scale some of those, but it's really in that middle space. Like, if there's something in there that the planning commission thinks is super, super important, that's probably your biggest lever or way to influence kind of what gets on the docket.
And as we're still working on all of the materials going to the board, but there is a whole section that we are going to be adding to our docket proposal sheets for the board that is planning commission feedback. And it's not just tied to resources. So if you have thoughts, we have a space where we can capture that at a high level.
Yeah, I guess what the other part is, maybe we shouldn't consider your resource constraints when putting that prioritization list together
And just tell the board to give it more resources.
Yeah, you tell the board what your resource capacity is. Go ahead.
You mentioned that citizen initiated ones were kind of low priority by default. And normally I would think that would be really bad, but I think when you say citizen initiated, we're not talking about citizens have asked the community to do something for the whole of Thurston County. I think you're talking about this as an individual property owner asking for something to be done just for their property. Is that correct? Am I understanding what citizen initiated means?
Applicant initiated for the sake of the comprehensive plan docket are things like site-specific rezones. Individuals are able to apply for development code amendments as well. And so we do have a couple on the preliminary docket of applicant initiated development code amendment.
Yeah, and there's a range. I mean, to the extent that we can, we can try to incorporate, especially an applicant initiated development code amendment into another bucket or an effort that's already underway. And we'll get into one of those as well.
Kind of have a plan.
Yeah, so we'll do what we can. Every time you docket something separately, though, know that it is a lot of work. Just even if it seems simple, the process is a lot of work. You're a big part of that process. So you'll see that we're trying to create more buckets so that we do have more space to still come to you and have open and transparent discussions, but not initiate whole separate processes for all of these things.
What are dockets? Fantastic question. So they're essentially work plans. We have two different dockets, and you all, as you are very well aware, are incredibly involved in all of our docket projects. We just wrapped up several things in December that you all were involved in for 2 years. The comprehensive plan anything that changes the comprehensive plan, joint plans, or sub-area plans or maps. That's where those projects live. And the things that touch the development regulations are on a separate development code docket. They can include, like we've mentioned, things that the county initiates or things that the applicant submits materials for. The primary difference is comprehensive plan docket items are all done at once. So there's one adoption point for all of these things. So if you were following last year on December 16th, when the board adopted the comp plan, it was more than just our 2025 comprehensive plan update. It included the Black Lake Quarry rezone. It included the most recent CIP. Any of those buckets, those things impact the comp plan, but they weren't the comp plan themselves. So we only have one opportunity a year to do any comprehensive plan amendments. Unlike development code, which we could just like crank out, we tried to do a little bit more efficiently and bring them to you all in buckets so you can consider them in a bigger space than just a couple lines of code. Why do we docket? Well, we're required to. It also does help with aligning staff resources, the community input, and also the board's decision making. So Growth Management Act does require docketing, especially for the sake of giving space for interested parties to suggest amendments. So the docket process has its own 20-day written public comment period. And so without that, we could in theory just work on things and the public not really know until we notice a public hearing with Planning Commission or with the board. The docket allows us to let the public know early what's going on, get their feedback so that that can inform the elected's decision as they're developing our work plans for the 2 years. And it also gives the board the opportunity to align work, departmental work with departmental budget and all of those things. So like I mentioned, and we've hinted at it and said it many times already, this is new. We did not come to you all at the beginning of the docket cycle last time, but we're doing it now. Sidebar, any feedback on how you think this could look next cycle is absolutely welcomed as well. As I said, we're trying to build on it. We're trying to adaptively manage our workflows so that we can have some more meaningful engagement from you all as a body before we take things to the board. And so, like I said, we're having priorities. So we're here in January and the plan is we'll go to the board for a work session. A peek behind the curtain, last cycle lasted about January until mid-April. So it was about 4 months of work of going to the board, having the public comment period, and then going to the board 2 additional times before adopting the dockets. And we've kind of whittled away at some things that we think can improve the process and make it speed up for the sake of us starting things earlier. So we're going to have one big beefy presentation with the board on what docket is and what the proposals are at hand, sometime mid to late February. I'm having to look at my own timeline, I apologize. And then at that first work session, we're gonna request that they open a public comment period. Just so you all know, public comments are already open. We developed a survey before this planning commission meeting to ensure that folks could comment as early as tonight, up until the close of the 20 days.
I've been on this planning commission 5 years and all this stuff is still Greek to me as far as docketing process. And that's why we're here, to try to learn it better and understand it and make it work better. And I think that's fantastic. But are you saying that historically, basically, the Board of County Commissioners has spent from January to May defining what their docket would be, and then they don't actually get to do any docket work until from May to December? Or what do they do from January to May?
I think it's worth adding that at the time of the last cycle, it was a 2 to 3 week process to get on board agendas. So it wasn't so much the board kicking their feet and waiting for 4 months. There is a defined process for going through those things, and there's still plenty that we can work on. Even if it's not docketed, there's plenty of programmatic things, process improvements, things of that sort.
Yeah, and the docket, I mean, it's work plans under the GMA, but it's not our full department work plan. So you'll see we're trying to blend things because you've got things that do fall under Growth Management Act, docket requirements. They also tie very closely in with all of our ongoing programmatic work. And for the high priority items or the grant funded items, like that work is underway. Like we go ahead and get it started. Now, if for some reason the board was like, nope, we don't want you working on it, then we would pause. But we're not gonna miss an opportunity.
So we're expecting that the planning commission portion of this is only gonna be work session and recommendation, but not like noticing public hearings and that kind of stuff. Okay, good.
And there's no public hearing at the board stage either.
Yeah.
There's only the formal 20-day period. And then, of course, like notice of adoption after the board adopts the dockets. Any questions on?
CAO is a really good example.
Say that again?
The critical areas ordinance update is a really good example. It's required, but it's not currently on our docket. But we went ahead and started it because otherwise we wouldn't get it done. And we've made the board aware of that, you know, we've made the public aware of that. But no action, no official action could be taken unless it was on our docket.
Just kind of on a side of this, I know that the docket, it defines our work plan, but it doesn't entail our whole work plan, the planning commission's work plan. We have done some things extra to the docket, sometimes like commissioning the industrial lands report or something like that. Is there, where in this would be an opportunity for the planning commission to say that we would like to take a look at something, even though it's not GMA or building and development code?
That one happened as part of feedback related to a comprehensive plan map amendment rezone. And those can be rolling. If you have an idea for a docket item, and there is one in here that was an idea from the planning commission. We went ahead and incorporated it. It was like, we've already heard the planning commission want to add this. If there are other ideas, this is the time. Because
I guess my concern is like with industrial lands, we wanted to do an industrial land study and you brought it up to the board and the board said, yes, let's do the industrial land study. But if it was a different board or a different time, they could have said, before we even got there, staff could have said, it's not on our docket, it's not on our work plan, we're not even gonna bring it to the board for you. And I don't think that would actually happen today, but it could happen in the future or something like that. So I don't know if there needs to be a formal process or a formal route where an interest of the planning commission can somehow get built into the work plan, even if it's outside of the docket.
We can talk about that. I mean, as at least in practice, we've always just presented those. And
Absolutely,
they
yeah.
get embedded in the letters of recommendation that go to the board. In that particular case, that isn't even a docket item. And so, I mean, but I think it was great feedback to the board in terms of like, we need this kind of technical analysis complete to inform our decisions. Please resource it, because it was really a resource question. It wasn't a should we or should we not do it.
And I think maybe at the risk of over bureaucratizing the whole thing, there could be like looking at the difference between what the planning commission wants to work on for the course of the year in addition to the docket items. I think the docket items are super important, but if there are other things, at some level, that's your prerogative to work on those.
Can we fix houselessness in the environment?
Put it on your agenda, figure it out.
All right, sorry for bogging that down.
So moved.
So as I've mentioned, there is a formal 20-day public comment period, and after that point, the board can decide to add, remove, or place things on hold. So I mentioned that I'll be walking through the preliminary docket. That's what the on hold space is. So like we've said, if it's not on the docket, we can't work on it. Sometimes there's a project that the board is easily like, no, this isn't a priority for the county. This doesn't make sense for CPED. Remove it from docket consideration. Some projects, it might just be down to staffing constraints, or this might make sense down the line. We're going to place it on the preliminary docket. So that then if the board were to decide to open the docket mid-cycle, they could pull things from the preliminary docket and place it on the official docket so that then staff could work on them. It's like a nice little limbo space for projects that haven't officially been told no, but they also haven't officially been told yes. So that's kind of the bad limbo side of things as well. Preliminary dockets. Okay, so there's 4 and they're all applicant initiated. And there's only one comprehensive plan preliminary docket item. And so it's the Scott Land Use Amendment and Rezone. A couple down near Black River owns 54 acres that are currently zoned 1 to 20 that they'd like to rezone 1 to 5. And the board placed it on the preliminary docket in 2022. Yes, thank you, Andrew. Due to staff capacity restraints, as I mentioned previously. Additionally, this proposal would, by increasing density in that area, would lead to a more intensive use. Even if it's still residential, it's more intensive just due to the increase in density in the Black River corridor, which does contradict with our code. And so that's another consideration that you all and the board can take when looking at this project. And then development code preliminary docket items. 2 of them are not within the purview of the Growth Management Act, that being the fireworks provisions and the no shooting zones. Both of those are more in the purview of the Sheriff's Department and Public Safety as far as enhancement goes, or enforcement, excuse me. And they amend titles that aren't tied to CPED, so Title 6, 10, and 26. Applicant initiated as well, and then
So what is when you say applicant initiated, what are they trying to accomplish with what you call the fireworks provisions?
they want to change the code so that the sheriff's office and so that the county has more enforcement of fireworks being shot within the county.
And to not allow them.
Yeah.
Into what?
Well, actually, we get comments on both sides. This has been on the preliminary docket for years, but the primary proponents are to restrict use of fireworks, but then you'll see probably half the comments coming in saying, no, please don't restrict fireworks. What it comes down to for us, though, in a docketing process is that it is completely outside the purview of the Growth Management Act.
So is the assumption or is the nexus here that fireworks and shooting has a land use component to it?
No, it's that the board knows that CPED regularly updates codes and we have
So
processes
it's
to
getting
do
dumped
it.
on you because you guys do a lot of code stuff?
Yes.
Oh, well, those can stay on preliminary.
In my opinion, it's also a health issue, a public health issue.
Yeah, I don't see the nexus with CPED or the planning commission.
Yeah.
And the final one is the Natural Landmark Program. An applicant wanted to add a chapter to code in order to create a natural landmark program. And there are quite a few legal risks and administrative costs to doing so. I would add some liability on the county. It would require us to essentially track these properties that people would voluntarily opt into being a part of this program, but then we would have to maintain some of their property.
It sounds like a great idea.
Wait a minute, this says natural landmark, but it's a landmark of buildings which are not natural?
Properties.
The applicant who's initiated this one has trees he wants to preserve on his property.
Trees.
But it's a relatively small property, so when he approached the land trust, they said, we don't really have an interest in establishing an easement, and it's fairly costly to establish an easement on an acre of property. So they have come to the county and said, county, we want you to establish and maintain and legally defend these smaller easements around the county. And when we approached our legal counsel, we have a lot of conservation programs. This is a gap, but it's a very, very expensive gap to fill for the county. And our legal counsels basically advised not trying to create a brand new conservation program for small pieces.
So it's a gap because it's small, basically.
Yeah, and
large enough to be in a conservation program.
It is not.
Yeah.
From our
historic preservation program.
Leave the Meeker tree controversy to Tumwater.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with you said the Meeker, it has nothing to do with the Meeker tree. This is outside Tumwater. So there are mechanisms, like as an individual property owner, you can establish your own easement or restrictions on title and things like that. So our legal counsel also provided alternatives, but they would still like to keep it on the docket.
Make any of these lower priority?
Then preliminary. We could request that the board remove them, which I think just clarifies expectations for people who are applying and submitting,
Well, all these applicant initiated ones came in with a application fee, right? So no application fee at all.
We did not have development code amendment application fees until January 1 of this year.
We do now have them. They are not assessed until they're actually placed on the docket.
But they burn up staff time before that during the evaluation.
Yes, yeah. We have like a minimal docketing fee, but the bulk of it is not assessed until it gets placed on the docket.
So is, I guess, thoughts on the preliminary docket and your
Are you
recommendation?
looking for decisions tonight on any of this docketing stuff?
Feedback.
Feedback.
Feedback, yes.
Well,
Notes.
I thought the planning commission had asked on the Martin Way corridor rezone.
That's the next slide.
That is being
These are-
retained on the docket, the comprehensive plan amendment docket.
Yeah, these are just the projects that are carryovers that were not placed on the docket last cycle. They automatically get considered, but they're currently on hold. And so the only recommendation the planning commission can say is add it, completely remove it, or keep it on hold. Those are kind of the
At our
options.
next full meeting, I will move to remove.
Agree.
How does that fit our timeline?
It doesn't, due to the power outage.
Move, okay.
Yeah.
We would have. All four. Move to remove all four.
Agreed.
I got
it seconded.
Got it seconded. So there's a motion on the floor to remove all four of these items from the preliminary docket for 2026, 2027. Is there any further discussion?
I don't know anything about the Scott Land Use Amendment and rezone.
It's a property owner down in this area of the county, southwest, with 54 acres that they're trying to rezone. They own it and it's currently 1 to 20, so 1 unit per 20 acres. They'd like to rezone it 1 to 5, but it is within the Black River corridor. And so that's why it's currently zoned 1 to 20. If you look at our code, there's,
What is it currently used for?
it's residential. It's a large, there's a lot of trees, some open space, because it is quite a few acres, and then,
There's one
residents.
home on the property? Okay, and right now, that's all they can put up. No, they can put one per.
They could
20.
put another.
You put one more on there.
Then go from essentially 2 to 10.
Okay, got it. Okay.
All right, we have a motion that's been seconded, and any further discussion? I'll call for a voice vote if this doesn't look too terribly controversial. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we have any nays? All right, we got one nay. Motion carries.
So I just wanted, I'm just saying, I don't know enough about the Scotland one.
Yeah.
And I know they've applied, so that's, but I know like the fireworks and the no shooting zone. I'm gonna say no shooting zone's been there for 15 years.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with removing those. But it's just because I don't know enough about, and I think that's people applying for something for countywide stuff, whereas the other one is a private property owner applying for a change on their property.
Well, our recommendation to remove it will still have to be, goes to the board and they make the final decision on it. So hopefully that your comments will carry along with that. All right?
Okay, so breaking this up into chunks, we'll go through the comprehensive plan docket first, pause for questions and discussion, and then go through development code docket, pause for questions and discussion. I'm gonna take a look back, December 16th of this year, and then what was it, December 18th of the previous year? So many things on our docket got adopted. Grand Mountain West, UGA expansion, we got the comp plan done, we got 2 CIPs done, Black Lake Quarry rezone, and then the LTA piece, we had our growth management hearings board decision. So much has been done comp plan wise. Same with development code, SMP, Andy got that through, we're waiting on the state. Forest land conversions, we got that done in 2024. Same with LRA, and then the permit review and code clarifications buckets were adopted on the 16th, just last month. So a lot of work has been done.
Pretty sure we changed the name of that.
We tried.
Yeah, but we're unable to.
Was there anything that we worked on that did not
Martin Way.
To the BOCC?
Well,
Everything got to the board.
yeah, that was the only one, but they actually took up your recommendation. So they didn't say no, they said, we actually think the planning commission's onto something. We want to see this as part of a more comprehensive zoning study.
I think spot zoning is illegal in Washington, so we'll see.
Well, actually, the recommendation was to relook the rezoning for the entire corridor.
Yeah, which is, I think, smart.
Yeah.
So there are 5 new proposals for the comprehensive plan docket and then 3 remaining projects. Martin Way, as we've discussed, Bar Holdings, that's a project that did not make it to the board, Commissioner Pessinger. The Bar Holdings UGA land swap and rezone did not make it to the board. We actually did not formally make it to planning commission. We had an
I was
open
gonna
house.
say, we didn't,
Yeah.
want it, did we?
We had an open house and then things came to a stall as we were working on SEPA, or rather the applicant was working on SEPA. And so it's carrying over for board consideration the
It
next
is
docket
carrying
cycle.
over. But is it gonna come to planning commission this year?
If it is docketed by the board and depending on timeline and staff constraints.
We still need to
But they
update
can't work
the
on it if it's
countywide.
not docketed.
We would not be working on it if it is not docketed. The countywide planning policy update is actually what officially paused it for review from the county's perspective as we were waiting on rulemaking. And now, essentially waiting on new docketing cycle as well as potential new legislation.
I don't see the critical areas ordinance.
It's development code. That's why, yep. And we received only 1 application for a comprehensive plan amendment during this cycle, and that's the Grand Mound one that I will get to at the very end. Joint plans. We finished comprehensive plan on time, done.
Congratulations.
It's a huge deal. It's huge. I'm gonna keep saying
Yeah,
December
exactly.
16th. I want us all to feel very accomplished for the work that's been put in over the past couple of years. So since our comprehensive plan has been updated and since Lacey and Olympia and Tumwater, we talked about this morning. Olympia adopted their comp plan, Lacey adopted their comp plan. Tumwater managed to, or are they doing it this month and they're adopting their comp?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
We're doing it.
2 to 3 got through.
Yeah.
We're doing a new Tumwater joint plan?
No, I'm talking about the city's comprehensive plan. So us working on the joint plans is contingent on them updating their comp plans. And so,
It's almost like we have a functioning bureaucracy.
the joint
Budget
plans,
for false, but
we'll amend them to ensure that they're in alignment with the cities. The cities had a lot of housing requirements that they had to implement. And so we will have to make amendments to our joint plans so that we are corresponding and talking about the UGAs in the same way. And
they're being very snarky in the news about it, by the way. I know you know that. The city's being snarky about housing and trying to push it back on the county. Too bad for them.
I'd be interested to see those.
Yeah.
Are we expecting the cities to go in that order coming to us? Or?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I will say if we were able to prioritize, I would prioritize be Lacey, Tumwater, then Olympia, just based on the level of development activity we see in the UGAs. So I would love to get the joint codes updated, for Lacey and Tumwater as soon as we can. That's where we see most of the development applications.
Even more than Yelm?
Yelm's UGA, it's more holding, so they don't have joint codes.
Do they have any UGA left? Or
They
annex it
will
all?
be proceeding with the annexation this month.
So pretty much well, nothing left.
The county commissioners just approved that annexation.
The ILA. Yeah. But even without that, Yelm doesn't have a joint code, so it's our zoning that applies. It is a lot more difficult with the joint codes of the cities.
Ramp the new zoning.
okay. Any questions on joint plans?
I have a question for you, actually. As we move into joint plans, would you prefer to have joint planning commission meetings?
No.
Or to just schedule them separately, because the cities will have just gone through all of this. And we're essentially just doing alignment, and it would be way easier and way faster for us to do that if we were not doing joint planning commission meetings, but I just want to hear your thoughts, because I'm actually meeting with all the directors in the next month.
Do I gotta be the jerk?
Is it possible that we can just have our meetings and they can join us if they want to?
Yes, we can invite them. We will definitely have staff here. We will invite staff, but I'm thinking about how do we speed this up rather than spending 3 months just trying to coordinate a schedule.
Welcome when they want.
I think that, yeah, inviting them's fine. I just, some planning commissions are a little bit more engaged than other planning commissions.
Some have more trouble with quorum than others.
Yeah. And I don't want our work to get stalled because we actually get a lot done, I think. And I don't want our work to get stalled because other jurisdictions are not as active.
I will bring that forward to the planning directors, and hopefully that'll be how we get to move.
Come with intent or don't come.
Thank you.
Agreed.
I have a question for you all that I just thought of. Would you all prefer to go through all of the projects and then circle back? I could pull up the slide with the table and we can go through and you can provide high, medium, and low then, or would you like to go slide by slide and give your ranking? Knowing you all, I think that you would like to see them in their entirety to inform your decision, because I could see maybe some things changing as the discussion continues, but I wanted to run it by you all.
I'd like to see what they all are.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Then we will do that and we will move on to the next one. Nisqually watershed plan. So this is a rework of the Nisqually sub-area plan docket item. So you all we had an open house, and I do believe Brian had, when he was an associate planner, work sessions with you all to discuss the sub-area plan. Derek has a really,
Sorry, was this previously on our docket?
It was
As
on
the
docket
sub-area plan.
As the Nisqually sub-area plan.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, this is essentially a like revisioning of that sub-area planning process to make it a watershed scale planning process. So kind of expand it beyond there and then apply some of the really spectacular tools that we have, and the really spectacular staff that we have that can do really incredible things. So we can model what it looks like to build on the landscape and make recommendations that we can move back through this kind of docket bucket.
But this was on our docket, but we didn't have any work sessions on it, or we did.
We
You
did.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had some preliminary ones, and I think
And an open house.
what we ran
open
into
house.
is, as we got further into it and we're hearing from stakeholders, is there weren't a lot of changes to the sub-area plan, but there was a lot of feedback about coordinating at a landscape scale or watershed scale with all of the other planning efforts going on. And so this is really informed.
Dam operators.
It's informed by what we heard in that community, and we've been going to the Nisqually River Council now consistently for 3 years, and this is an attempt to align and deliver on something that the community wants, rather than just checking a box, like a GMA box for a sub-area plan update.
So has that, Nisqually sub-area council actually firmed up? Have they gelled? Because last year it was kind of like hit and miss as to the group of people that were involved in that.
The way that we're planning to do it right now, and what we've been doing, is working directly with the Nisqually River Council and using that as kind of the forum, because they exist. They've been working in that watershed, like active constituency.
It's a lot of tried input.
Yeah, so that feels like instead of trying to stand something new up and invite people into a new space and new meetings, like we want to use that as a venue. We've talked to them about it and they're on board.
How much of the work to do this particular one would be supported by grant funding?
We've got a grant to cover about $150,000 worth. We would probably use that to do some like background, basically quality assurance, because what we're doing is pretty novel to be using a land cover model to like inform like planning recommendations. That's not a super common thing to do, so we'd want to be really careful about how we do that. So
do you see more grants on the horizon to support this?
I've been really surprised at how much capacity we have internally. So, and that's part of the plan here, is to be able to kind of reallocate some of our some of like Kevin Hansen's time, some of our other modeling capacity to be able to do this kind of work and answer these kind of questions about like what happens on the landscape when we pull this lever.
And this project is slightly different because it relies really on the capacity of our technical experts within our department versus our planners. So when the next briefing happens, it will be Kevin Hansen doing a whole show of the land cover model rather than a planner necessarily walking through, you know, policies and comp plan and whatnot. And I would encourage you to prioritize this, if only to have an opportunity to have Kevin Hansen come and give that presentation. It is so cool.
Sorry. I vaguely recall seeing stuff from the DOT about their potential bridge designs for things through there. Was that part of what we did, or was that totally separate?
But that was present at the Nisqually open house. It was
Okay.
in the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of stuff that you can build into the model.
Yeah,
Do
and
we-
they should kick in some money for that too.
Do we know if they changed, do they still stand by the plans they presented back then, or have they changed positions at all?
Wasdon?
Yeah,
I don't think they've changed those plans. It's a question of what they can get funding for.
yeah.
It's a $1 billion bridge, from what I understand.
Well, part of it
I'd
was
be
getting the
careful about this
roundabouts
stuff.
through
I do,
507, through Yelm, through McKenna.
especially if other people pay for it.
Yeah, and Yelm will be another
Yeah.
important partner.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just say on the topic that I know there's controversy about the bridge and rebuilding and retrofitting for earthquake preparedness and other things, but there's a lot of controversy over, are we gonna spend the money to do it right? And I just saw pictures taken by a county commissioner of when we were at high water level on the Nisqually about, I don't know, 2.5 weeks ago or so. It's a very different picture when that river is at flood stage. And you can see how it would very clearly scour out all that gravel that's in there that was put up as embankments under the bridge pilings and whatnot. I mean, I didn't believe it before until I saw high level, flood level water running through there, and it was only a few feet below the Nisqually Bridge. And it looked like it was scouring a lot of stuff out. So all I can say is I really hope we do that the right way. I know it's not something we get to do, but I hope we are part of a coordinated plan of doing that the right way.
Part of this watershed plan is, or it is all multi-jurisdictional, but some of this goes into Pierce County, right?
In Lewis.
In Lewis. So if you're concerned about those bridges having Pierce County and DuPont and Thurston County involved in all this for these, that'd be a good way to influence how that bridge is done.
Well, I formerly worked for the DOT, and I'm not exactly proud of our track record with bridges.
Any other questions on this item?
No, we'll do our ranking at the end still.
Yes, yeah. I know you all, you're gonna get really excited and then be like, man, this one's really good, and have to hash it out and debate where you wanna put what. So I want us to go through all of them and then you all can,
This is the badly named one.
yes.
Sorry, Loretta.
Ashley, do you wanna take this one since it's badly named?
Oh, it's badly named. It's badly named to reflect the language that is used in the Habitat Strategic Initiative Lead grant proposal. So this aligns with a grant that we got. It was a $400,000 grant to look at our working land conservation program. So that grant is coming to an end. We will actually have policy recommendations. We're doing a lot of financial analysis, and that will be complete by mid this year. And so we wanted to make sure we had space on the docket to move forward and continue that work and implementing those policy recommendations. So we've been meeting with a technical advisory group, doing a lot of that research. And what we think is going to come out of this are updates to our transfer development rights and purchase of development rights programs, both on the programmatic side, so like how we administer them, as well as on the code side, how do we create a market for them? We've got right to farm provisions, changes to our conservation futures program, potential additional changes to our cluster development standards, as well as changes to our habitat conservation program. So a lot of this will be programmatic, but in the context of, when we come to the planning commission, it'll be like, okay, well, this piece falls into the Growth Management Act, and we will be sharing how it connects to all of these other pieces that support our conservation efforts.
Sure sounds similar to the greenwashing by the timber companies called working forests.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be working lands. I will say, at least in the context of like where the initial funding came from, it was working farms in forests. So it wasn't what our land, like how the land works for us. It was like a basic understanding that the more working farms in forests that you protect or conserve, the better ecological outcomes you're going to have. So not necessarily taking them out of working, but really how do you support the long-term viability of those working lands?
Is this the only way or the only vehicle we would have for this docket cycle to push forward right to farm provisions?
No, because they're part of Title 20, and one of the development code docket items is Title 20. This one could move faster potentially than Title 20, because Title 20 is so big, it's going to take a long time. But that's, there is another vehicle for it, as well as transfer development rights and purchase development rights. I think they both live in Title 20 as well.
All right.
Did we put anything about right to farm in the comprehensive plan? I thought we did.
Yeah, but we gotta have the development code for it.
When we talked about the plan for Title 20 as a docket item, that was a recommendation of the planning commission to include right to farm in that.
And we put it over here because it aligned more with this, like, how do we support long-term viability of our working farms and forest lands? And it has the potential to move more quickly, because it would just be
I guess I'd hate to see it because it's such a big topic for that to get kind of washed out and fallen to the side and not getting acted on this year. I think that's something that needs to be acted on this year if we can in some way.
It would come, so we created this as a comprehensive plan docket item. The items that are in it right now fall within development code, but just to be careful, it's like, let's go ahead and put it on the comp plan docket item in case there are policy changes that need to be made to support some of the updates to TDR and PDR. But the development code pieces can move pretty fast.
Okay.
They won't be a once-a-year action.
Why does it say medium priority?
It's not required. Any other questions? No, we've invested a lot of time in it. But it's not required. And if it's not on the docket, we'll just do all the programmatic updates, like those will continue. We just won't be able to touch the code pieces.
I just feel conflicted, and I imagine others do too, that there's things on there I care deeply about and there's things I don't care about on there.
We haven't seen them all yet.
Yeah, I'm just
Oh, you mean
saying,
on
on
this
this
particular
list,
one?
right here on this
They
page.
all kind of work together, which is like when you're thinking about conservation in the county, isolating one piece, there isn't one way to conserve land programmatically. The way our funding works, like the way we work with our partners, like these things are all connected.
This is one docket item.
Mhm.
It's a lot.
And it's kind of a menu.
With a single funding source or a major funding source.
Well, we got grant funding for the technical work. We did present it as a phase 1. We would be eligible if we're successful in completing this grant round to go back for a phase 2, which would be the implementation piece.
Sorry, one more question about this. Are you saying if we don't do something with this, then for example, cluster development, which has already been proposed in the comprehensive plan, no one will be able to do anything with it because there won't be any development code?
No, so we actually have the development code for that. There was a lot of feedback at the board level around the changes to cluster developments and requests to like take a deeper look into it. And so this is a way to reflect that feedback that the board already got. It is a really important conservation tool. It is called out as one of the priority conservation tools in our adopted habitat conservation program. But we can continue refining it to make sure it's actually doing what we're intending it to do.
I'll be amazed if we have 3 of them.
Historically, this county actually has seen quite a few cluster developments. A lot of land has been conserved, like the Deschutes River Preserve is a cluster development.
Climate. Climate program policies and code updates. This is similarly to the Working Lands one, kind of a menu, a bit of a bucket, and this is proposed as a docket item in response to a lot of the conversation that took place during the comprehensive plan work last year. So this docket item will implement actions from the climate element, and it may include a variety of things. It'll promote the comp plan goals, but similarly to the previous one, it's a menu. This list is not exhaustive. It might include all of them. It might include none of them. We've got so much work happening outside just the land use, like Ashley and Derek have said, that would go into this project as well.
And one of the other thoughts here is climate issues are so broadly distributed across like the whole county apparatus that this is also a way, even if it's not specifically a comp plan or a docket item, it is related to those, but it might be an action that's happening over in facilities, and we can talk about like what's happening so that people can kind of track it. So that's another kind of idea with using this kind of bucket approach for things like the climate program. And then on the resource front, we did just submit an application for a grant for another $500,000 to do climate implementation from the comp plan.
I'll vote this number 1 unless you got a houselessness slide.
Okay, this is the applicant initiated proposal. I mentioned we got 1, so this is the last of the new proposals. We still have 3 carryover proposals that we'll go over after this. This is a request to rezone almost 5 acres of property in Grand Mound within the UGA from arterial commercial to planned industrial district. It's a vacant and it's an undeveloped site, and the applicant has stated that this rezone would enable uses that are consistent with the surrounding area that is zoned as planned industrial. And so the red, if you can't see the tiny text on the bottom, the red land is arterial commercial and the purple land is planned industrial, and it's not a polygon, maybe it is. The hatched shape is the parcel in question. So that's the parcel. It's currently arterial commercial that they're requesting be rezoned to planned industrial.
Yes. Thank you for letting me talk, even though technically I'm not supposed to. I just point out that the section of Title 20 that lays out the industrial park zoning under 2027-080 specifically says that the minimum district size for a zoning map amendment to industrial park is 5 acres. This doesn't meet that rule, so the rezone is non-compliant with our code. Thank you.
All right.
The capital improvement program.
We only have to do it every 2 years
Yeah.
though.
That's the big fun thing is we don't have to touch it this year, we'll touch it next year. We've shifted to a biennial cycle, and so it'll be a repeal and replace of the 2026 to 2031, CIP that was adopted last month as part of the comprehensive plan. It's a 6-year plan for the county's capital facilities, and it involves a lot of collaboration and coordination with Public Works and Central Services. We are required to complete it per state law.
Maybe next year they'll have the. Yes.
It is updated.
Did they update it?
Yeah. No, we made sure they updated it.
Okay.
Because that was the feedback from the planning commission. So before it got presented to the board, it was updated.
Oh.
Now we just need to ensure that it remains updated. They weren't able to do as fancy of a map interface, but all of their projects are on there.
Even Central Services.
Central
Can't wait to
Services.
hear an update on how many parking facilities we need for wrecked sheriff's cars. Number keeps climbing.
When Public Works had a pretty good review anyway, the central services that was lacking.
Yeah, there is a new director of central services and she came from Public Works.
Oh,
So so it's very similar.
great.
Any questions on CIP?
The helipad in there?
So if we just did CIP, why would this year, and we're gonna go to a 2-year cycle, we gotta do a new one for this year?
No.
Okay, but it's high priority.
It's a 2-year docket cycle, so it's high priority in that in 2027.
Oh, wait a minute,
will have-
that's news to me. This
It's
is
the
a
2026 to 2027
Docket.
docket. So these are projects that we'll work on over the course of those 2 years.
Okay.
Good to know.
Okay. Bar Holdings, UGA swap, land use amendment, and rezone. This currently lives on the 2024-2025 comprehensive plan docket. It's applicant initiated. It is a proposal to amend Tumwater's urban growth area by pulling 65 acres out from the urban growth area north of Black Lake in order to pull 46 acres roughly in to the UGA, and that property is just off of 99 and 93rd. And by using the UGA swap and moving those parcels in and out, it would allow the requested properties to be rezoned from RR 1 to 5 to general commercial, light industrial, and mixed use.
This is the one that there was a lot of discussion about habitat crossing areas.
Yeah, corridors.
Corridors and stuff like that.
Yes, and this is the one that, as Ashley mentioned, it did not come to the planning commission or the board because the countywide planning policies update stalled this, and so that's why it's being moved for consideration on this upcoming docket cycle. And it is low priority because it is an external applicant initiated proposal.
It rates at least a low for me.
Tell us what you think.
And then the last one is the Martin Way Land Use Amendment and Rezone. So you all saw this, you looked at it, the planning commission recommendation was that rather than rezoning this parcel, it should be a bigger analysis of the entire corridor and any necessary upzoning, rezoning within that area. And so,
Actually, our recommendation was to approve the rezone.
yes, and then,
And then
yes,
make the recommendation.
secondary
that the whole corridor be looked at.
yes. And
But the-
so,
But the Board of County Commissioners, I was at that meeting, decided that they wanted to go ahead and do the whole thing.
yes, and a lot of that is tied to Lacey docketing and annexation study and looking at the Martin Way corridor as well. And so these things are all kind of happening in tandem.
I will say that with this one, given the city's current interest in annexing, this might not be one that I would assign staff resources until we figure out if it's even gonna be in the county jurisdiction. So
Is Lacey actually looking at doing an ILA to annex it?
they are, the next step for them is the official, like an annexation study that builds on the work that was presented to their council last year. So there's interest, they have approached our board. So we're working with them on what the scope of that study would be, because we want to make sure there are certain pieces from the county's perspective that should be annexed.
Annex Tanglewood.
That's what I heard too.
Are they talking the whole Martin Way corridor now?
It is one of the areas that they are considering bringing in. That it is a very interesting presentation that is available on Lacey City Council's website. If you just search like annexation study Lacey, you could go through it. And they have a really dense, fun annexation feasibility analysis that they did too.
Are they still talking about removing, can't remember what the area was, the watershed area?
From GSA?
Yeah.
There is no discussion, at least in that feasibility analysis, about removal of areas. It just broke out their whole UGA into different districts and then did an analysis, like basically a financial analysis of what it would look like to bring those in.
Who thought the trailer bus would stir up so much?
Well, and Tingwell just redid all of their infrastructure, so it probably makes it a lot more attractive to the city.
Yeah. We paid for it through a lot of grant money.
They'll have to absorb that whole utility then.
Yeah.
So this was the last of the comprehensive plan amendments. I'm gonna go back several slides so that you can see the full list. And I'd like to go through each of them and get some feedback from you all as well as how you would prioritize that project.
If I could recommend them you do development code too.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Because
Yeah.
they're kind of
They-
related. So
there-
if you're-
there's so many buckets here that's a good, this is why she's in charge, folks. That's
No,
a fantastic idea.
You're asking good questions, like, does it really have to live on this docket or can be incorporated somewhere else? So why don't we go through the other ones?
Okay.
What'd you think?
I'll look forward. We did not receive any applications for development code amendments this cycle. We do have several in the table on the right that are remaining, but I really want to highlight last docket cycle, we came up with the idea of buckets. So permit review process, new uses, code clarifications, and the buckets really worked because like we've been saying, if it's not on the development code docket, we can't touch the code. And we need to have a way to be responsive as our permitting staff are reviewing things and identifying issues and inconsistencies, redundancies for us to address those. And so the names worked. We might change them, we might not, but just a lot of work was done under some of these names. We're just carrying them forward because the bucket process worked really well for us this last cycle and we want to continue it moving forward. But as far as new proposals for consideration, we've got the CAO, which you all are becoming very familiar with Claire. Updates to Title 20, the Rural Zoning Code, and then updates to Title 18, the Rural Subdivision Code. And then we've also got to amend our joint codes. So similarly to how we're working on our joint plans, following the city's adoptions of their comp plans, we have to amend our joint codes. We're a joint planning county. We permit for the UGAs. The cities are required to make a slew of updates to their codes in alignment with state law as part of the comp plan. And so the more that they update it, the more that our joint codes are out of line.
Yeah,
And so
they're
now-
like 30 years out of line.
They're incredibly out of line. So we need to update all of the joint codes. And then S&P is still on there as well as Andy's waiting on the state in order to wrap things up with ecology and then the board. And we have one applicant initiated proposal that was on the 2024-2025 docket and we did not work on it. So it will move forward as part of this new docket cycle and it's the cannabis related code amendments.
Do it.
However, the proposal is to amend things within Title 20. And so we've got these buckets and certain things might feed into those buckets rather than needing to be a standalone item.
I will say, I remember when, I think it was Jeff Merriman came and gave a presentation to the Planning Commission about this particular development code docket item. When we dug into it, it was a lot more complex from just a code perspective. Like it's not just touching one section of code. It's touching multiple sections of code all over Title 20, which is why we didn't end up having the resources to tackle it. So just keep that in mind as you think about whether it should be a standalone one or whether it should be sort of pulled into a broader Title 20.
Do we have that many outside the urban areas that, even in the urban growth area that would be applying for cannabis permits?
Well, it's not just retail, it's the production, manufacturing.
It was
farming, agriculture.
It was the ag piece. They wanted to make it easier for ag. I will say in my time as ag program manager and in Kevin Jensen's time as ag program manager, we have not received inquiries about cannabis.
Growing cannabis in county.
Growing. Which is why it was an applicant initiated one. There are specific property owners that are interested in that. But it seems simple. That one just, because of the way the codes were adopted, it went from like emergency ordinances to just like a standalone section in the code to break it apart and try to have it more integrated and have it be really seen as an agricultural product. It's just gonna take a lot. It's a lot of work.
Okay.
CAO. This is a repeal and replace of Title 24. It was last updated in 2012. Claire is doing a much better, eloquent job of sharing information with you all on what this proposal is. And so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but want to give her kudos on that. We need to update the CAO, one, because it's out of date, but two, because there's so much more best available science. And per GMA, we're supposed to be keeping these things in alignment with best available science, and because we just updated our comprehensive plan, making things in alignment with that, as well as our HCP habitat conservation program, and shoreline master plan. And then, this is a high priority as we are required to complete it.
It would make sense because the HCP is done, the comprehensive plan's done, and the SMP should be done by June.
Last June?
Yeah. 6 years ago.
Yeah. We are starting to hear things from the state, so that's good.
Next is the rural zoning code update. So this is Title 20. Maya came in October of last year and had a work session and scoped some things out. This will include updating the structure, clarifying some uses of standards, improving transparency, reworking definitions and cross references and such. And Title 20 is huge. So it will require looking at every piece and should, as we are working through this, should we realize, oh, there are like several additional things we didn't consider up until now. Our plan as part of this docket cycle is to scope things with you all. And so as we're working, and especially with regards to these buckets, we'll be scoping things with you all as a body to inform what that work is, so that you have a more meaningful engagement in the process. And this is medium priority and that we're not legally required to, but we need to update it because it's very out of date. A lot of circular code language, things that complicate things for our permitting staff. And we have all of these new comprehensive plan goals around rural growth.
And in terms of it being required, we made all of the requirements that we had to for the comp plan update. So these would go beyond that, sort of the minimum updates to meet our housing goals.
You mentioned Title 20 several times in this presentation today, but can you tell us what the 3 most important things we'd have to deal with on this one would be?
I think it's what are your 3 biggest opportunities with it? It is so big and sprawling. It is your rural zoning code. So all of your zoning districts, all of your standards related to development in your rural areas are contained in Title 20. And then in addition to that, you have
care about standards.
Cluster developments, your conservation, TDR, PDR, your right to farm provisions that we do currently have live in Title 20. It's a beast.
I would kind of expanding upon that, like just imagine one version adopted in 1999 or 1987, and then arms and legs just periodically added on, not necessarily aligning with the body, but they're added on. And that is essentially what staff have to somehow navigate to make it walk in the right direction. And then it's complemented by Title 24 and Title 18.
It's a great analogy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And can you imagine
of this role?
like our individual property owners? I mean, Kyle Willoughby was a commenter, like that isn't staff trying to punish an individual property owner. That is our team trying to implement the codes that that we have. And they're tough.
Willoughby's conversation with the board testimony. Okay.
Any other questions on Title 20?
You need some light reading. Start practicing.
Okay, Title 18, it's the rural subdivision code. This would be a full repeal and replace of that section, similarly to what Claire is doing with the CAO, rather than go line by line and look at it and change things as is. Sometimes it's easier to just wholesale start over. So that's what this would be. It would bring Title 18 in alignment with subdivision regulations and state law. And that same kind of thing. The beast that Andrew was describing for Title 20 also exists in Title 18. The arms are and the redundancy exists across titles, not just within them. And so doing that same work that we're doing with Title 20 would happen in Title 18 as well, streamlining things, making things easier for the public and also folks to understand. So there's not as much, it says something here, but it says a different thing here, but then over here it says a third thing that somehow is relevant and then complicates things for folks who are applying for subdivisions as well as staff that are reviewing them. Joint codes. This is county initiated, like I said, joint plans, we're doing joint codes. We have joint codes with Lacey, Tumwater, and Olympia. And so I have proposed and we are pursuing adopting the city's codes by reference. We run into and continue to move forward with issues of our joint codes being very out of date. I mean, you all have been a part of this process of all of these amendments have to go through you all. They have to have a hearing, they have to go to the board, they have to have a hearing before adoption. Even within that time frame, the cities could be adopting changes. And so we're pursuing a way to try and make things easier for everyone because our joint codes are also piecemeal updated. So there's inconsistencies and redundancies. They're outdated, and this effort ties in so seamlessly with the comp plan goals and the necessary development code changes we need to allow for more housing. And so we are not permitting our UGAs to urban standards based on what our joint codes look like right now. But by adopting the city's codes by reference with some exceptions, it's not just going to be wholesale. We take it, we are going to be looking at it, and I will be working with the cities, and Maya will be working with the cities for elements that maybe Ashley called it special sauce, the CPED special sauce. There might be things that we keep. We will retain for hearing examiner projects, it will go through our process, not the cities. So we'll be working out all of the administrative pieces as well as different standards within there that we might want to retain. Because like I said, we are not permitting the UGAs to urban standards as it is right now.
So really simple, adopted a 5% housing goal. The cities have done a lot of legwork since the 90s with Sustainable Thurston and whatnot to implement code updates to allow for more housing. Our codes don't reflect any of it. So even if there's sewer, water, the infrastructure's there, you're still only allowed to develop to 1990 standards in the UGA.
In UGA.
So how are we expected to?
I think that I think the argument that the joint codes updated is a very easy argument to make, and I understand why it's required. The adopting by reference is the part that I have the largest problem with. We saw that when we wanted to adopt by reference with Tumwater earlier, there was some real friction with some of those kind of things. So of course, the devil is in the details on a lot of that. And specifically, the idea of adopting by reference Lacey, when we don't really know what they're doing with annexation yet, that does not make me feel good at all.
It actually makes it more seamless though for annexation.
Yeah,
if
but,
we're all
maybe
using
more
the same
seamless, but we lose even that much more control. And maybe that's a good thing in some places, but
You mean if it gets annexed?
if it gets annexed, then like if I knew for sure that all was getting annexed, then adopting the rest of the UGA by reference doesn't hurt my feelings so much. But if we don't know it's getting annexed or it's gonna get cherry picked in some kind of weird way, adopting by reference doesn't feel as good.
Which they have done historically.
We'll have a chance to talk about that if it gets docketed, because I'd like to learn more. Because we would still be the permitting authority and self-implement everything.
Yep.
And we do ultimately, like, reference isn't carte blanche. When we've been working with our legal counsel in the cities, it's really looking at what barriers do we have in our joint codes to realizing the full housing potential and being able to optimize the infrastructure that exists there. And to be honest with you, it's just keeping up with the state legislature.
Yeah, I like the idea that they're doing the heavy lifting on developing the code too. That's nice. But it also seems like the opportunity for public input, if we adopt by reference and then they do a change and we just accept that reference without our own public input, and it might affect things that are happening in the county, I don't like that either. I think that any time that the county does something that affects somebody that lives in the county, we should have our own public process for it and not just say, well, we adopted it by reference. You know, we adopted it by reference in 2025, and by 2030, things could have changed and there'd be no county public process for it.
Yeah, I've got the same issue. We did that with Tumwater, and actually the thing that stuck with me was in the recommendations was a recommendation to adopt Tumwater's ag code for the entire UGA, which basically says no commercial ag. And my issue, which I think this is I don't want to get too into it because I'll get mad. This is a big sticking point between me and a couple county commissioners in the city of Tumwater. But anyways, my other problem is I don't think you can say that Thurston County is the one holding up growth in the UGA. Because I've sat in these meetings for a long time. And every time one of these cities has come up, it's come up with the planning commission. We need more growth here. We need to change this. We need to do this. And we have been told by cities, by staff, by county attorneys that we have a memorandum of understanding with the cities. And we have to adopt our code and our zoning to match with what the cities are planning.
We do have that.
And so we've done that one before. That's a big sticking issue with me because Thurston County is the planning authority in Thurston County. And our county commissioners have ceded that to the cities, which is a huge reason why we can't have the development that we need in the cities and the UGAs.
We do have those MOAs. They're all from the 90s. We have individual ones with each city,
Yes.
which we're also taking a look at. And when I say like the development hasn't been happening, I'm just looking at codes and looking at subdivision proposals and seeing multiple subdivision proposals not even meet minimum density. They can't get to minimum density.
And
When it's three units per acre or 4 units per acre because of the 1990s version of the codes that we have. And then you start looking like, okay, well, we have this. Well, they used to have it in the cities. Well, they don't anymore because all of a sudden you're taking out all this acreage that could be used for potential housing units. Like I'm just looking at the codes as they're applied now. And if we can't even achieve minimum densities in our low density zones, when we've got a 5% rural growth goal, like that's a problem.
I think we can get there without adopting by reference though.
I mean, and that's been a problem in the past is that we've said we need more growth here. And we were told that we couldn't because it didn't match the city's plan.
So going
And-
more dense than the city.
And then
Okay.
also,
I'm understanding.
the whole issue with density and not being able to get there is a big reason why in the past transfer of development rights didn't work. Because that program's been in place since 1995. And when I first started doing this, it was the critical areas, and we were talking about this stuff in the whole cluster thing was up. And that's what we were told by pretty much anybody that had any interest in building in the cities or the rural county was, why would we buy transfer development rights from you? If I'm zoned 4 to 6, I can only build 3 houses on this property. And I know that's changed recently, but I mean, that's not something that's been, that's been an issue for most of the time that I've been here.
Part of joint plan and joint codes, like this, all the cities have lots of different zoning districts. If we want to see more dense development, the county can also apply more intense zones to the UGA. So, I mean, I think it'll be a good conversation. Their zoning districts, their housing stuff got changed so much more than ours because of state legislation. So the joint plan update will be focused on housing. The joint codes will be the whole joint codes because we never touched them after the last joint plan updates. But it'll be interesting to see what level of change they had to make to comply with the new state housing regulations.
Okay, I think we are probably getting a little off track here though, so we'll get
It
back.
sounds like you're interested in this one.
We are interested in it. We'll have these fights if they make it to the docket.
Have the discussion and spoken.
And to ask the county commissioners to tear up the MOAs.
Yeah.
Or MOUs.
There's some good stuff in there, like we're supposed to be financially compensated for the permit review and the UGAs. I'd like to hold on to that one. Realize that one and then we'll.
Okay, the Shoreline Master Program, this is county initiated. It's currently under review by Ecology. And so, had the public comment period, had the public hearing. Andy's waiting on feedback, and I do believe, like you said, June of this year is what we're shooting for. And this is high because we are required to complete it. No questions on SMP?
13 years of this.
It won't come back. I guess what's important about that one, it will not come back to you for the 84th or 85th work session.
No, but we're watching it for the board.
Sorry, checking my battery. Okay. This is a standing docket item, permit review process, annual code update. I brought this through you all last year. This is a bucket that can include various things that we will scope with you all in advance. Like I've mentioned, it's so that we can address inconsistencies and redundancies as they come up as current planning staff identify them. And looking at this year or this docket cycle, this bucket item might include refining the detached ADU provisions. And it will include additional conversations with the board and their role in the appeals. They've directed that they'd like to continue that conversation 120 days. Appeals was removed from the package, so Commissioner Chair Menser wants to ensure that it's unanimous, and so they'll pick it back up in this year and continue discussions on that item. That's the benefit of it being a bucket, is certain things like that can get pulled out. So it was 3 of the 4 items were adopted in December. Appeals had been pulled out so that the board can continue discussions this year.
Other items, I mean, it's a short ledge session, but this would allow us to be responsive to that. We also have some updates to other code provisions that may or may not even have to go through planning commission, but we'll still probably touch on them here, like for Title II and Title 14.
Do you care if we run through the remaining slides real quick before our computer dies?
Yeah, please do.
Other standing docket items, bucket items, excuse me, new uses and related standards, code clarifications and corrections. As we identify things between Andrew's group and Derek's group, we'll come to you all as a body and scope what might be included in that package. And since this is on the development code docket, you might see 5 code clarifications and corrections packages. Probably not. We'll try to find a way to condense it, but depending on the needs as they arise, we can have multiple ordinances adopted for development code docket items. And then cannabis, we talked about this a little bit at the start of the development code amendment discussion. Applicant initiated, it exists on the docket now, so it's moving forward for consideration since we did not do any work on it during this 2024-2025 cycle. And this, as Ashley mentioned, all of this touches Title 20. So this might not need to be standalone. It could be folded in. Okay. That's all of the things. I need priorities, but also I want to open up the space if there are any ideas that projects that you all think might be necessary. We can discuss what bucket they might fall in or discuss what it would look like potentially developing that as a proposal. Martin Way is a really good example of, you all talked about it. You had your 2 recommendations to the board, and then it's been amended and is being retained on the docket in the new year.
What would be the opportunity for housing? What should we look for?
I'm sorry, what was that?
For housing?
Housing's Title 20 and Title 18.
Joint code.
Mhm.
Pretty much all the development code options.
And that's for low income, correct? Low income housing.
It could be a range. UGA for sure, because we didn't really get to touch that in rural. A lot of the housing for lower income populations is usually multifamily, which you can't build in rural areas. There isn't the infrastructure. So we touched on it for Grand Mount. The joint codes is where we get to touch on it for all the other UGAs.
All right, we want to do the ranking then?
That would be fantastic. Andrew's on standby if my screen disappears and goes dark. These are all of the comprehensive plan proposals that we went through. I can share our priority. If you don't remember, I have them written down on this slide for myself. But I would like to know the planning commission's thoughts / priorities on each of these things.
Yeah.
So are we able to make a recommendation? You've got kind of three categories, low, medium, and high. Are we also allowed to take a docket item and recommend it go to preliminary?
Yep. Or get removed.
Yep.
All right.
And I know you're gonna do it with the CIP and we just
Nope,
can't.
nope, I'm not done. Do you want to run these through one at a time or?
I think that would work if you all want to have additional discussion. I will.
You want to show us what, is this yours, how you want them, and then maybe us rearrange or give suggestions on rearranging?
So joint plans we have as high, the next three we have as medium, and then Grand Mound as it's applicant initiated is low. And then CIP is high and the other two are low because they're applicant initiated.
There any interest in rethinking any of these lows as getting removed or bumped down to prelim?
I will say the 193rd, it's a district standard size, the 5 acres. So because it's adjacent to, it would be adjacent to other PID zoned, it's not a parcel size requirement, it's a district size requirement. So it would be part of a larger district. So that wouldn't automatically like bump that one. You all can say you want it on the preliminary. I just wanted to clarify.
I'm just looking at the Martin Way Land Use Amendment rezone. I don't want to see the staff spend a whole lot of time on that. I want to see what Lacey's gonna do with their joint plan and their consideration of annexation.
So it'd be like a preliminary and then revisit depending on what Lacey decides.
Right.
I would like to see the Grand Mound 193rd left at low, but not removed or not put to preliminary, because I think that's probably, my guess on that one is it's low hanging fruit and probably not resource intensive and probably a pretty easy figure out. What's that?
Or deeply controversial.
Or deeply, yeah. So I don't think it needs to be high up on the list, but I mean, if we couldn't do that in a meeting or two, I'd be shocked.
So is the body in alignment with CPED's priorities on all of these items?
I'd like to see climate higher, but I think you're saying it's effectively tied for second place. That number 2, 3, and 4 are all tied.
They're all medium priority.
So I'd like that.
Like Derek said,
The-
medium is a space.
The other thing to think about for climate, this is a structural thing. So we had a long conversation internally on whether it needed its own standalone bucket.
I get that.
So
Kind of a space holder for us to make sure the community knows and the planning commission knows. There's a lot of work being done.
And to be honest, the actual work that happens probably wouldn't change whether or not that is an item on the docket.
Cool. I'd still like to make it high.
Agree.
I'm indifferent on that. However that falls, it's fine with me.
Okay, so 2, any other commissioners feel strongly about changing the priority to high for the climate item? The folks online?
No.
No, nothing there.
And the way this might look on the docket sheet is like the planning commission stressed the importance of like resourcing this work or something like that.
In a climate emergency.
I would like to see the watershed-wide planning, the Nisqually watershed-wide planning prioritized pretty highly, just because I think that it's the first step on redoing all of it to a much better way.
Like our other watersheds?
Yeah, I think all of our planning, moving all of the planning to a watershed based instead of the way we're doing it now. This would be the first step of doing it, so get it done once, it's gonna be a whole lot easier to get done every other time.
You want to create a new model for how we do land use?
Exactly right. Yes, like you.
Based on the unique resources we have at Thurston County.
And a wonderful leader like Derek, I
exactly
hear
right.
you, we'll make sure to put that in there.
Well, it's watershed, yeah.
No,
I'm definitely.
no, how do others feel about that?
I like it.
Yeah,
It is pretty novel.
yeah. And I think it actually has the most potential to actually change things on the ground compared to a lot of the other planning that we do.
So
Going-
as,
Going towards the lower level ones, does anybody have any ideas on how they'd like to, I think we've discussed Martin Way land use, but what about the bar holdings in the UGA swap stuff? Does anybody have any feelings on that one?
I'd love to lower it.
To preliminary or to pull it off?
Either.
Yeah, I'd like to pull it up.
I'd pull it off.
three pull it off, four pull it off.
Commissioner Halverson, do you have opinion on bar holdings?
Oh, I'm kind of neutral on it.
Wait, did you just say pull it off?
I haven't said anything yet.
Oh, you're waiting.
I don't think there's enough difference in whatever we decide here. So I think I totally would recommend that we just leave it the way it is. Everything.
I think that putting any more time and effort into it when we don't even know how UGA swap stuff is gonna happen this year on the state level feels like we're gonna be in limbo with it forever anyway, so.
Spinning our wheels.
Do we want a consolidated recommendation?
Yeah,
And what would that be?
prelim.
Remove.
I wonder if a vote might be helpful. That really help.
We could do thumbs ups or downs.
Everyone online said remove
Yeah.
or no, Commissioner Fishburne.
Let me ask this real quick. Has the applicant paid any money on this yet?
Once it gets redocketed,
Once it's.
our new fee schedule requires essentially full cost recovery.
Okay, I think that it would.
It didn't before, though.
I think it'd be kind of rude to pull it all the way off, but I don't think it'd be terribly rude to put it on the preliminary docket.
So should we we could put a planning commission supports lowering the priority of this item?
To include placing it on preliminary or removal.
Yeah.
All good?
All that language.
All right.
Yeah, cool. And what, okay, so we got the 193rd, the Martin Way land use, the bar holdings. Those were all the low priority ones?
In Martin Way, was there, was that consistent amongst?
I don't know. I think so.
I support that.
Yeah, I'd support that.
I mean, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of staff resources and taking a look at what Lacey may or may not do. And if they don't annex, then it's something that we need to look at.
Any other items? Or are you in alignment with our priority for the?
I like the rest of your
rest
priorities
of
just fine.
Fantastic. Then we can go to development code.
Does anybody else have anything on our prioritization?
Any other conveyances to the board?
Anybody have any other projects they'd like the board to pick up?
Housing.
I think that's.
All right, well,
You could, I mean, if there is an interest in the planning commission highlighting that they really want housing to be a focus of the Title 20 and the Title 18, I do think there is space for us to, like, if we said housing, then we'd have to list all the other docket items next to it. But what we could do is make it really explicit that as we go in and update these codes, we'll be focused on housing.
I like that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we want to go through the development code, or are we generally okay with the priorities identified, seeing that there are high, mediums and lows based off county requirements, possible changes and applicant initiated?
Well, these are all high on the left side, right?
Rural
20
zoning
is
code
medium.
Medium.
Really?
20 and 18, they're not legal requirements, they're just beneficial.
I think they need to remain where they are. I don't.
I wouldn't lower them any, that, no, I think leaving that medium is fine.
Yeah, changes versus.
What is cannabis rated?
Low because it's applicant initiated.
We wanna have a discussion on if whether we wanna keep cannabis at low?
I would move to raise it to medium.
The other opportunity that the board, the planning commission can make is to recommend that it be included within an existing docket item. That's, it's also being
Into
proposed.
20,
So
into
that's
Title
another
20.
option for you to consider.
I'm good with that.
I think it'd actually be heard sooner if it was in
Yeah.
the Title 20 stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not a big cannabis folk.
Is nobody gonna take the opportunity to make a pun here?
Say that again?
Is nobody gonna take the opportunity to make a pun here?
We
had a couple.
Title 20.
I think we should save it for 20.
Yeah.
Oh.
Make sure that it's a hot.
I got it.
6, 7, 6, 7.
No.
No,
It's at home.
My grandkids, I mean, they.
Oh. So otherwise, besides recommending that cannabis be included in Title 20 and placing an emphasis on housing as we are working on Title 20 and Title 18 as well, were there any changes that you all had? Any priorities that the planning commission has that differs from what we've identified as the priority?
No.
Nope.
Fantastic. So all of us,
Oh, so the other ideas, so now you've gone through
yeah,
that
okay.
exercise, other ideas that are not reflected here?
I don't know, I think you captured them.
Yeah.
This is a heavy lift.
Yes.
Title 20, we might end up having to phase, but we gotta dive in first. So that is it's gonna take multiple work sessions with the planning commission if that gets docketed to even scope it and talk about phasing it.
All right. I think that's all that we have. Do you have everything from us that you were hoping to get?
yes, I will package all of this. We'll start working on all of the things as this goes through the board. I will either come at the next meeting or have Derek relay an update on the more concrete board timeline. I think we'll be able to give some more details on the estimate for that come the next planning commission session. And then as we move forward into having the public comment period and all of that for the docket as well, we'll use this space to make sure the public know in case they're not following the board happenings.
I appreciate you folks getting planning commission input on the docketing process. I know that's pretty new, but I think that I like it.
Well, it actually used to happen 10+ years ago, so it's just full circle.
So they owe us dinner.
Oh, they do. They do.
No, we used to pay for that.
I'm saying
But yes, we can ask them to.
dinner.
Yeah.
Gonna do it, never did.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna move on to our next agenda item since we're running a little bit late, and that would be staff updates with Manager Day.
I don't have any major staff updates right now. Well, actually, I do want to mention, we did lose Larry Schaffner over the holidays. So he was our stormwater program manager, longtime county employee and absolute giant in the stormwater world.
And a gentleman, man.
Yeah, absolutely spectacular human. Really, really sad to lose him. He'd been planning to retire at the end of the month, and we had actually opened the recruitment for his position before he got sick. So it's really disappointing. So, and then one of the other staff updates is the administrative support for planning commission is moving to Corey. Will be doing our and he also did the really good notes a while ago. So meeting minutes. So
Did you want to provide your staff update?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So we're active. We have quite a few active recruitments currently underway. We are recruiting for a planning technician. We are recruiting to replace Natalie, an associate planner, as well as recruiting for the building services supervisor. So Tim Rupert, who is also our current floodplain manager is retiring as well at the end of this month. And so we are actively seeking to fill those voids. With the retirement of Tim, we are shifting the flood program out of building into planning. And a new kind of flood team is being created where it will be multiple individuals, some with CFM rating certificates. And the supervisor, Nick Bonnard, which I don't know if you've met, I can't remember. He was the former floodplain administrator. He ran the department that did all of the floodplain permitting within Washington, DC. And so it's kind of an excellent complementary to that program. And so that will be getting kicked off here shortly.
Natalie presented to us about permit process.
She did.
She got an incredible promotion. She's
Yeah.
a senior planner at City of Marysville now.
She had,
Quick.
her partner,
Surprised.
lived and worked in North Puget Sound region. So,
An hour and a half commute really got.
yeah.
It's like the worst.
So we supported her, but it is really sad. But don't worry, David Toyer does a lot of work in that city and he has promised me he's gonna keep tabs on her and try to get her back down here.
So how many FTEs are you down now?
So how many do we lose because of budget reductions or?
Well, that was the next question. How many FTEs do you have, are you empty that you have funding for, and how many did you lose during the budget reductions?
So we lost Tasha's position. So that is why we've had to switch who is supporting. We lost our halftime PIO, Public Information Officer. And so far those are the positions. One of the reasons, the planning tech's actually been open for a while, but we kept it open because we didn't know if we were gonna be able to hold on to it. So things are looking good right now. So all the ones that are open, like we have funding for, we are shifted to a full cost recovery model for our permit review. What we found when we started digging in is that the general fund was subsidizing it by about 40%. And so pretty significant fee increases, which of course have impacts on our community.
Everything.
I know.
All
But it was
right.
either that or we estimated we'd lose about 8 to 10 permit review staff. It would have ground us to a halt for permit review.
We would get to choose what we holler about.
Yeah, and we were so far behind the other jurisdictions, even with the fee increases on the building permit side, we are still the lowest of all of the surrounding jurisdictions.
I just can't, I find that so hard to believe.
Our impact fees are higher, so that's been the confusion. Our permit fees are way, way low, but our impact fees are middling to high. So the full cost, if you take that into consideration, but impact fees can't be used for any of our administrative costs of permit review. So we isolated the actual permit review, and that's where we're way, way low.
Well, the commissioners are gonna take a lot of heat for that.
Well, that's why they get paid the big bucks. All right, we'll move on to calendars now. On January 21st, tentatively, we're gonna do the work session on frequently flooded areas and best available science. Is there anybody here that is not expecting to be able to make the meeting on the 21st? All right, on February 4th, we'll be doing geologically hazardous areas. Does anybody think they'll not be able to make February 4th?
Maybe gone on the 4th.
Which one of those is Kevin Hansen?
I think he might be later. His car is after that.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Are you gonna bring in,
Check that.
who are you gonna bring in are you gonna bring in any specialists for frequently flooded areas and best available science?
I don't remember for the actual meeting, but we were planning to do the.
Yeah, we might have to do
After
some
floodplain manager.
swapping of the schedule to get Tim into his window still employed with the county. So hopefully here soon.
You don't wanna bring Noah?
Well, we were hoping to bring both.
Oh.
So,
So no narrative.
yeah. But yeah, if it remains within February, if it goes into February, Noah and Nick will be present.
Okay.
It would be a shame not to have Tim. He knows
One more
every
time.
site like the back of his hand that has seen any flooding in the last 30 years in the county.
Mhm. All right. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order?
I just have a question to staff. What are we looking at as far as renewal of planning commissioners? Applications.
So there are applications with the board. We were able to get kind of an update this week, which is when I learned that Ms. Lola Flores had been appointed. We know that there are applications in for Commissioner Mejia's appointment. And then also I know Commissioner Klaus has Commissioner Bartlett's application and intends to nominate for appointment.
Okay, so their next meeting is not for 2 weeks. And that comes.
After their next business
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah,
It's
that comes just the day before our next planning commission meeting.
Yeah, and we are not part of the.
I know you're not. I was
nominating
just asking
process.
where the
But we're
steps-
we are trying to track, like whenever we see the agendas, we look, we look to see like is what's on there. And if we don't see it, then we'll kind of ping and say, hey, we've got vacancies that really need to get filled.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I was looking at our next meeting being, talk about organization.
Yeah.
Stuff, and I don't know that we're gonna be able to do that.
Well, if we don't have everybody here, we'll put off doing a reorg until everybody is here.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a big deal. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? All right, without having any further business, this meeting is adjourned.